All right, welcome to the session or the event where we will celebrate Tesfaye's lifetime achievement and legacy today. We are pleased to have such a honorable list of speakers and all spectators and viewers. I would like to do some very short introductory, and we'll leave the podium to Barakat to introduce the speaker list. Recently, we all were hit by despair when we heard the very sad news of the sudden and unexpected passing away of one of our time's greatest writer, anthropologist, and influencer, Tesfaye Gebreab, at the hospital in Nairobi, where he was getting medical treatment. Tesfaye had many running and planned projects and was very enthusiastic about his future projects and had a strong will to give us more. He had a vision of launching, for example, one book every 3 months. Books which would have helped a lot to correct the distorted and twisted historical narration in the region, Horn of Africa. Unfortunately, time came to its end for Tesfaye too soon, and we lost a source of great hope and unmatched caliber too early. Fortunately, Tesfaye Gebreab was a very productive person and left behind lasting legacy which will continue to educate, impact, and influence generation. Said that, this event, as I said, is to celebrate his lifetime achievements and legacy, and hereby that I would like to invite my dear friend and brother Barakat Tekle to introduce the list of speakers and take the podium. Please, Barakat, take the podium now.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Teddy. As usual, when we do an Eritrean event, we always start it with remembering our martyrs. So I will invite everyone to stand and remembering our martyrs for 1 minute at this time. Please stand. سمعتات نذكر بسلام عرب
عودنا حطش.
Thank you very much. We have lined up several speakers today, remembering our dear friend Tesfaye Gebreab. And among those speakers, we have, due to technical issues, a video message from his brother, Negasi Gebreab. Negasi is his younger brother of Tesfaye, who has been with him throughout the ups and downs while he was in Kenya in a hospital. He will give us a video message today, and it will follow by Hannah, a close friend of Tesfaye. The rest of the speakers, I will introduce them as they come, and everybody welcome. We should start with a video message from Negasi Gebreab right now. Thank you.
نكلكم نايزي زوم أكبا تساتفتي لايف ليغاسي ناي تسفاي جبرعاب بهذا كتكبروا تأكلكم زلكم سلامتاي أقرب لكم. أنا نجاسي جبراب بحال هاو نتسفاي جبراب بفلوي أبتي أب حكمنا زنبرلو أوان سجاب هلفتو مسو تقوس لزنبركو فاميلي دما وكيلي أبزي نايزوم زجبر أكيبا كساتف سلز تعدمكو مسكاناي أقربلكم تصرب زبالة شير زجبركم هذا مسكانايو قال دما قرب تمكروي نتسفاي جبراب مستيس أوفاتوز ملكت بكميريو بكمي قلصو زبل هسر زبالة عصاباتي دما أكافلكم مبزهتو جزي سنة أباباويان أب هيوتهم أبز كبدهم ويدما أبز عرفولو ويزهمولو جزي زهري كوغنيشن يركبو بزهي بحاللهم ناي تسفاي جبراب كابزي فلي بمبالو تعمي زهقو سني نجاريو مكنياتهم أب هيوتو أب جزو أب سرهو كلو بزه زتدقفه بزه ريكوغنايز تجبره زتسمع صحفاي إيو إلى سلزة عمنيو نابنت ناي أورومو كوميونيتي نزجبرو أبركتو أقدم أبيلوم أبصره كله بمسرة بحالي موجاسا جدا زبل ناي كبري شم معرك باركوت تواهبو زي نقو نسركو نكلو نادنكتو نسرو كله ذهبنن زتبابن قداي بمكانو زي أبهيوتو أبصره كله دما نزي بمركابو كل هانا نقوم بفلاي زهقو السنبرة أنا جاريو دهيروم ناي إرترا بحالين تاريخن زملكت كتصف مسجمرة فلي بزبالة ناي إرتراويان كوميونيتي مسو يقوازو يدقفوو يتبعوو جميروم يوم مصحفتو يهتمو بفلاي أبتي سويدنن كبابيان زركبو إرتراويان بفلي زبالة مسو تقوايزون كتبعوون مصحفتو كهتمون كالة مدباتن كسرون كقدمون كزاربين بايتا كهبوون زقبرو وصاري إن كلهانا كل شاء نذكرو نجاريو أبتي وشتي هاجر أب إرترام انترينا بزوخ دقف ركيبويو من ساعات بزابا سنة صحف زيرو أدريس كجبروم كزارب أبتي RDC ناي Research Documentation Center زدليو ريفرنس كرئي كركب سوات كزارب مصحفتو كهتم بزوخ تدقفويو بايتام تواهيبويو سلازي تسفاي أب هيوتو أب جوزو كله بزوه دقفات ركيبو إيو إلنا كنهكوس كنكور نكالالو كونتاتيو زلو بفلوي أبتي جزي همامو كابتع مجمرع إلت جميرو زتقبرلو كنكن دقف بتعامي لبي زتنكفيو ناتو أبز العالة أبز تكاء بوتا كهكم إرتراويان أب أوروبا أب أمريكا أب أفريكا أب كله زركبو أب إرترا كلهم زجبروا متهججاز بتعامي ذهبنيو ليلي 50,000 دولار زوسده كمنا ناتو بزيز كونه صقم بزيز كونه جزي موساد ريس كجبرلو كيلوم كابو بزحلف دما بمعالتاوي نابنغون مشتن اندادولو كتبابؤني ابتي مسو كلكو اجوكا كبلو زوسدو غيزين تبغسون ابتي لاست هيوتوناتو امسكينو بيني ايكونكم زدقفوني زقدسوني سبات አለው ኢሉ ሐሲቡ ከሐልፍ ተረዲዎ ከሐልፍ ዘካ አለው ኩነታት በመኳኑ ሎሚ አብዚ ኮይኔ ክሪዮ ከለኩ እዚያ አይተገበረትን ኢሌ ኢልና ናሐስቦ ዘጣሰና ነገር የለን ኩሉ በሰብ ከገበር ዝካል ነገር ኩሉ ተፈቲኑ እዩ ቡኡድማ እሱም አጊቡ ሐሊፉ ነናም ሎሚ አብዚ ከለና ተሐጉስና ናይ ሰብ ተፈቲንዩ ንኣምላክ ኮይኑ ኢልና ኩላና ናሃስበሉ ንዛረበሉን ኩነታት ብምኳኑ ኣደ ዘኩርዓናን ዘጉሰናን ነገር እዩ በመጨረሻ ተስፋይ ከም ጸሐፋይ በከመይ ትገልጾ እንተ ትብሉኒ ሞር ኣነ ከዛረቦ ዝደሊ ናቱ ናብ ጽሑፍ ዘለዎ ፓሽን እዩ ኣነ ወደ 12 ዓመት ሻድሻይ ክፍሊ ከለኩ ተስፋይ ወደ 18 ዓመት 12 ክፍሊ ከሎ ጀሚሩ ክጽሕፍ ሪዮ እከታተሎ ነይረ ኣብ ሽኡ ይጽሕፍ ከህትም ኣይክእልን ነይሩ ግን ከይረብረበ ብቀጻሊ በፒሮን ኣብ ጥራዝን እንዳጻፈ ብዙሕ ጽሑፋት የቀምጥ ነይሩ ኣነም ደድህሪው አንብቦ ነይረ ካብኡ ዝጀመረ ስጋብ ህልፈቱ ዝገበሮ ነገር እንተትህሉ እዚዩ ካለ ስራሕ ተስፋዬ ክሰርዝ ገል ኮይና ይስማዓኒን ብዘካ መጽሐፍ እቲ ጽሑፍ ድማ ብፍሉይ ፓሽን ብፍሉይ ኮሚትመንት ከመይ ገይሩ ይገብሮ ክርኢ ብጣዕሚ ይገርመኒ ኢንስፓየር የሚገብረኒ ነይሩ ኣብቲ ኣሞት ኮማ ከሎ ካብ ኮማ ወፂኡ ዝፈተነው ነገር እንተትህሉ መጽሐፍ ነይሩ ዝዛረቦ ነገር እንተትህሉ ብዛባ ዝህተ መጽሐፍ ዝጻፍ መጽሐፍን ጥራይ ነይሩ ብዙ ጊዜ ተስፋይ ኣብ ሓደ ነገር ብዙ ኮንሰንትሬት ገይሩ አቅሊ ገይሩ ክጸንህ ኣይክእልን እዩ ኣብ ጽሑፍ ምስ በጻካ ግን ኩሉ ሻ ዘለዎ ሃይሊ ኢነርጂ ፓሽን ኮሚትመንት ኤክሰፕሽናል ነይሩ እጂ ባጭሩ ተስፋዬ ንክጽሕፍ ተፈጢሩ በመጽሐፍ ዝነብር ዝነበረ እንዳጻፈ ዝሞተ ዘዓረፈ ጸሐፋዩ ኢሌክ ዛረብ ደፈረ በመጨረሻ ስድራ ተስፋዬ አቦ ሰለስተ ቆልኡትን ባል ሃዳር ነይሩ ባልትቤቱ ሃበን ዮናስ ትበሃል ደቁ ድማ ኒያት ጓላ 12 ዓመት ራእይ ወድ 9 ዓመት ሃራ ወድ 7 ዓመት እድሜዮም ናሽቱ ቆልኡትዮም ኣብ ጊዜ እረፍቱ ንደቁ እንታይ ኢሎም ይነግርዎም ነይሮም ተስፋዬ ኣብ ገነት ኮይኑ ይጠምተኩም እዩ ዘሎ ኣብዚ ግን ኣይመጽእን እዩ ኢሎም መሳበርዎም ወድ 7 ዓመት ሃራ ዝሃተቶ ህቶ ኣብ ሃንጎለይ ተሪፉ ንህናከ ማእሲና ነሪኦ ኢሉዋቲቱ ሹ ክነረድኦ ከቢድ ኮይኑ ተሰሜኒ ነይሩ ድሃር ጸንሄ ምስራእክዎ ግን ምሳሰብ ኩሉ ንሃራ ዝከውን መልሲ ረኪበ ሃራ ምስ ጎበዘ ጽቡቅ ከንብብ ምስ ጀመረ ናአቡ ንተስፋዬ ክሪኦ ክጅምር እዩ ንተስፋዬ ኣብ ጽሑፋቱ ኣብ ዘረቡ ንተስፋዬ ክረክቦ ክክእል እዩ ቡዩ ተስፋዬ ህያዊው ኢልና ነዛረብ ብጽሑፋቱ ብስርሑ ኩል ሻ ህያው ኮይኑ ይነበር ንተስፋዬ ክሪኦ ክረክቦ ዝፍ ደለሰብ ኣብ ጽሑፋቱን ኣብቲ ስራሃቱን ክረክቦ ይክእል እዩ በመጨረሻ ኣብቲ ዕለተ ቀብሪናቱ ዝነበረ ኣብቲ ታሪክ ህይወቱ ክንበብ ከሎ ሃንቲ ዝተንከፈትኒ ሃንቲ ነጥቢ ክደግማ አደሊ እንታይ ትብል ሎሚ ንተስፋዬ ጥራይ ኣይኮናን ቀቢርና አሰርተታት መጽሐፍቲ ኢና ፀሐይ ከይረአያ ተህቲ መሬት አስፌርና ትብል ሃቂው ዘይጻፎም ኣብ ውሽጡ ዘለው ሐሳባት መጽሐፍቲ ኩሎም ምሶም ተቀቢሮም እዮም ግን ሎሚ ኩልሃና ሃደራ ክብሎ ዝደሊ እቲዮም ዘይተጻፉ ምሱ ተቀቢሮም አሎ ግን እቲዮም ዝተጻፉ መጽሐፍቲ ከይርስኡ ምሱ ተቀቢሮም ከይተርፉ ህያው ኮይኖም ክነብሩ ንወለዶታት ክመሃላለፉ ንብዙሃት ድማ መበገሲ ኢንስፓይሬሽን ኮይኖም ክነብሩ ናይ ኩልሃና ሃላፊነት ናይ ኩልሃና ጻሪ ክህልዎ يقبع إليه أعمن بزكله نزجبركمو እጅም ተገብርዎ ንዘለክዎ ነገር ድማ ብሽም ኩላና አመስግናኩም የቀነ ያለ
In a nutshell, what brother Tesfaye Gebreab, his youngest brother, said was thanking the communities abroad and at home that showed compassion and help to author Tesfaye Gebreab. He was saying that Tesfaye was lucky in a sense. He was recognized while alive by the Oromo community in adopting him as an Oromo through the Mogasa process or ceremony. He was happy in the sense that his readers, be it of Amharic, Tigrinya, or English, had given him recognition. So he said that he was touched by a sentence that was read during the funeral that says that we are not only saying goodbye to Tesfaye, but to all potential books that Tesfaye could have written. Therefore, to keep his legacy alive, let's read the books that he had contributed, because we would not be able to get those that were unwritten. So that was in a nutshell brother Tesfaye Gebreab's message, but he thanked all those who had helped him, and he left us knowing how loved, basically how much help he got from the Eritrean and other Horn of Africa friends, readers, and fans. So that was in a nutshell his message. Tesfaye is survived, as we are going to hear next, by his wife Haban, his father Aboy Gebreab, and his 3 children, Niat, Rai, and Hara, who were 12, 10, and 9 respectively.
Thank you, Gideon. Right now we are seeing one of the quotes. We have plenty of quotes that we will read. Tesfaye quotes. Those quotes are picked from his books or from his Facebook posts. They are in Amharic or in English, in Tigrinya. በጣም እናመሰግናለን ጌዶን አባይ። ከዚህ ቀጥሎ ተስፋዬ ገብረአብ መጽሐፎች ውስጥ ካሉት ጥቅሶች አውጥተን ከተናጋሪዎች በኋላ እናነባቸዋለን። ካሉን ጥቅሶች አንዱ እንዲህ ይላል። እርግጥ ነው ሰው በተፈጥሮ ከሚመር እውነት ይልቅ የሚያስደስት ውሸት መስማት ይመርጣል። እኔ ብዙ ጠላት ለማፍራት የበቃሁት የሚመር እውነት ለመጻፍ በመምረጤ ነው። በጣም የሚያስገርምና በጣም ደስ የሚል ጥቅስ ነው። እውነት ላይ ተስፋዬ ሁሉ ጊዜ ተጭኖ ነበር የሚጽፈውና ከዚህ ቀጥሎ አንድ የቪዲዮ ፋይል ተስፋዬ በቃላቱ ማን እንደሆነ በትግርኛ ይነግረናል።
ተስፋዬ ገብረአብ ካብ ዝጽሐፎም መጽሐፍቲ የቡርቃ ዝምታ፣ የጋዜጠኛው ማስታወሻ፣ የስደተኛው ማስታወሻ፣ የጀሚላ እናት፣ የኑር ነቢ ማህደር ከምኡውን የቲራቮሎ ዋሻ ካብ ትርጉም ካብ ትግርኛ ናብ አምሓርኛ ዝተርጎመ ድማ መጽሐፍ ግፍዕን ካልኦት ጽሑፋትን ዘበርከተ ደራሲ እዩ። ተስፋይ እንኳዕ ደሓን መጻካ ርሑስ ቅንያት ሓድሽ ዓመትን በዓል ልደትን ምናይልካ መቶ ኾንና ተቐዳመይቲ ክንፈልጣ እንደሊ ማለት እዩ። ተስፋይ መኒ
ቅድም ቀዳድም ቲቪኤሬ ናብዚ መድረክ ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ስለዝጋበዝኩም እኔ ይቀንየለይ አኔ ብዛዕባይ ህፅር ብዝበለ ክዛረብ እንድር ኮይነ ካብ ኤርትራውያን ስድራ ኣብ ቢሾፍቱ ትበሃል ኦሮሚያ ኢትዮጵያ ተወሊደ ዝኣበኹ ሰብ እየ። ነዊሕ ጊዜ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ብጋዜጠኝነት ሙያ ሰሪሐ ሕጂ ኣብ ሙሉእ ጊዜ መጽሓፍ ናይ መጽሓፍ ስራሕ ይሰርሕ ኣለኩ። ነፍሰይ ከምዚያ እየ ዝገልጻ።
I believe we're going to go to the next speaker now. Then our next speaker is Hannah Philippos. Hannah is a close friend of Tesfaye. She has been one of the primary person who has been helping Tesfaye throughout all this ordeal. So Hannah, the mic is on you.
يعندي اللي برغت كبرات أحدن يحواتن نازل معلت نقبرو زلنا ناي كبر حونا دراسي ناي تاريخ تمرمار تسفاي جبراب صغير نعي أب قدميهم قريبة بزعبة تسفاي جبراب تذكروتات نخجبر عدل بمعاكم بدعمي مسكن تسفاي جبراب كم تقول هنا تعذبنا يوم ناي صحف عالم نخصاتف عدل مركب قليل كم زي نبرة يوزي حبرنا تعدل نوحدات كجلة تتحزي يونيرو تسفاي جن نتباناك أديدو بدحريقو نتزرخبو عدل تقوت أتيروس نخالوت بزحات من ساعتن عدلات كفيتو كبورات أحاتن يحواتن تسفاي جبراب كابتن ما بزلنا يوزبن علو زبهالو درستي بفول يا جباب مسترير مرتعتات زلوه تاريخ مسلبو ولا دواهيدو بمترخ زتفليته هو زنبرو دراسي نيرو كالق نتسفاي فلوي زقبرو عبدار كما بزحتين درستاتو لبنا أنببتو بزمارخ كيرو تاريخاوي يستمهرو مستقيق مرتعو اندهابه يوز زغتل كبرات حواتن يحاتن تسفاي جبراب أب معبالة زمناوي درست عبي ترى كم ستتصاوته يفلد تناي حونا تسفاي تمنيت أبشت ونموقع ويدما نمبتصح كلنا إيرتراويان كي تحللنا تخبر تسفاي حونا زجمرلنا متحببار نإيرتراويان درستي كنقصلو يلابو احنا كلنا إيرتراويان أحاتن أحواتن كبر حو تسفاي كابتا ተስፋዬ ሓሚሙሎ ንሰምዕ እሞ ከዓ እቲ ሕማሙ ክፍወስ ዝከኣል ካብ ሃገር ወፃኢ እዩ ምስ ሰምዕና ኩላህና ከም ሓደ ኣካል ኮይና ተዋሂድና ዓቕሚ ብዝፈቐዶ ተፈቲኑ ግን ፈቓድ ኣምላኽ ኮይኑ ተስፋዬ ንሓዋሩ ተፈሊዩና እዩ ቃል ክቡር ሓውና ከዕብር ሕጂ እውን ይላቦ ሰላም ዕረፍ ተስፋዬ ይዓንደለይ
ቀኒልና ሃና ብጣዕሚ ቀኒልና ሃና ከምቲ ዝበለቶ መዓልቲ ተስፋዬ ትከታተልዎ ዝነበረት ብጣዕሚ ለዋህን ሰራሕተኛ ብጣዕሚ ለጋስ ሃፍትና እያ ኣብ ኩሉ ንጥፈታትና ከዓ ስጋ ሕጂ ሙሉእ ቀልባ ምውሳእ ዝሓገዘትና ክብሪ ዝሰማዓካ ሃና ሕጂ ካብቶም ተስፋዬ ከምቲ ዝጠቐስኩ ዝፀሓፎም ጥቕስታት ክዘውፃናዮ በረኸት ከንብበልና እዩ
አንዳንድ ሰዎች ሶሪ ጥቕሲ ኣይርአኒ ዘለኹ ኦኬ አንዳንድ ሰዎች አማራ የምጠላ ይመስላቸዋል ለማጥላት ምንም ምክንያት አይኖረኝም እንዲህ የሚያስብ አንዱ ተንኮለኛ የጻፈውን ሳይኝኩ የዋጡ sorry it's going out of my screen and I cannot read it
no problem አንዳንድ ሰዎች አማራ የምጠላ ይመስላቸዋል ለማጥላት ምንም ምክንያት ይኖረኛል እንዲህ የሚያስቡ አንዱ ተንኮለኛ የጻፈውን ሳያኝኩ የዋጡ የዋድላ ደላንታ በጎሽ ናቸው እኔ ስጽፍ በጨዋ ደንብ ከመሞገት በቀር ተሳድቤ እንኳን አላውቅም እኔም በሆም በጠባይ ደረጃ እንደ አዳአ ጥቁር አፈር ጋር መሆኔን ገልጫለሁ የተስፋዬ አጻጻፍ እንደምናውቀው ሁሉ ጊዜ በማነጻጸርና በጣም በመኳል ደስ የሚል ነው አዳአ ጥቁር አፈር እነዚህ ውስጥ በማስገባቱ ምን ማለት እንደሆነ ብዙዎቻችን ይገባናልና በጣም እናመሰግናለን ከዚህ በኋላ በረከት please introduce us to next speaker who are Obo Libby please give us some introduction Barakat take
yes thank you Teddy our next speaker is Obo Libby Buru I'm not sure if Obo Libby Buru is online I haven't checked his presence, but Obo Lubu Buru is, as we all know, according to the Oromo culture, Magarsa, Tesfaye was adopted by a family here in Washington, D.C. area through a ceremony in 2014 to be part of this family. So, Obo Lubi Buru, please introduce yourself and then have your mic to yourself, please.
If you could hear us, unmute your mic and then you could proceed. Unless he is under iPhone link, so let's proceed to the next program and then we'll try to get him next then.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Gidon.
Can you hear us? Okay, continue, Teddy or Berhan.
Until Obolibi Biro join us, I would like to do some bridge and give some time to Betty to prepare. Betty is our young sister who will read some statement about Tesfaye. Betty, until you get ready, I will play some transition. You will take the podium later. Betty, please take the podium and read your statement.
Members of the Eritrean diaspora communities from across the world mourn the untimely passing of our brother and well-respected writer, Tesfaye Gebreab, who died recently in Nairobi, Kenya, where he was getting medical treatment. He was only 53. We also celebrate his accomplishments and achievements. His pen, no doubt, has inspired many young writers to follow in his footsteps. His death is a great loss to his family and to all those who loved and admired him for the tremendously rich literary legacy he has left us. Tesfaye was one of the most prolific and insightful writers who rose to prominence the last 3 decades with profoundly impactful books covering historical as well as socio-political subjects. His legacy as a writer will no doubt leave a long-lasting literary footprint in Eritrea, Ethiopia, and the rest of the region. Since the mid-1990s, Tesfaye captivated his readers with a unique mastery in modern storytelling. He was the author of 13 books and an editor of several other works. Tesfaye also authored 3 novels: Yalt Amaleso Babur, The Train That Never Returned, 1996, Ye Burqa Zmita, Silence of the Burqa, 2000, and Ye Bishoftu Orotoj, Bishoftu's Evil Spirits, 2001. Through his Silence of the Burqa, Tesfaye had enlightened millions by spotlighting the suffering of the Oromo people under successive Abyssinian regimes. From his exile in South Africa and the Netherlands, Tesfaye authored his trilogy of memoirs: Ye Gazetenya Mastawasha, a journalist's memoir, 2008, Ye Darasu Mastawasha, an author's memoir, 2010, and Ye Stetenya Mastawasha, a refugee's memoir, 2013. These 3 books expose the corruption and inner intrigues of the leaders of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, and its puppet coalition, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF, that ruled Ethiopia with an iron fist for nearly 3 decades. Tesfaye's pen continued to flow after he permanently settled in Eritrea, his country of origin. While in Eritrea, he authored the following 6 books: Ye Jamila Inat, Jamila's Mother, 2014, a collection of short stories including a rarely told story of Emperor Haile Selassie's mother, who was an Oromo Muslim. Ye Nurun Nebi Mahdar, The Nurun Nebi File, 2017, a story of 4 generations of an Eritrean family, Nurun Nebi, Edmundo, Gabriel, and Mokonnen, who experienced and fought the cruelty of the Italian colonialists and 2 successive Ethiopian regimes. Janhoy ina Derg Yalt Anagaru Mararat Arkoch, Haile Selassie and the Derg, Untold Unimaginable Atrocities, 2018, an abridged translation of the book Atrocities that details the cruelty of Ethiopian regimes on innocent Eritrean civilians. Yetiravalo Washa, the Tiravalo Cave, 2019. This book has 3 sections. The first is about the ordeal of an Eritrean fighter pilot who refused to bomb civilians in Eritrea. The second brings the folklore of Eritrea's mosaic of ethnic groups. The last section, in 7 chapters, each worth volumes, covers Haile Selassie's policy on Eritrea, the EPLF's 1985 policy on Ethiopia, and the false narrative of Derg and Wayana generals about the Eritrea-Ethiopia wars. The final chapter is on the 2018 peace between Eritrea and Ethiopia. K. Zeman 1, Red Era, Volume 1, 2022. This book is a collection of stories that cover Eritrea-Ethiopia relationship starting in the 1840s. The title of the book is chosen because most of this relationship is full of conflicts soaked in blood. It also tries to set the record straight by correcting much of the distortion of history written by proponents of the zero-sum Greater Ethiopia narrative. K. Zeman 2, Red Era Volume 2 in publication. This is a sequel to the first volume. Amira Fedait, Amira the Urban Commando in publication. This book is based on stories of Eritrea's freedom fighters who were operating inside enemy-controlled areas to oversee the organization of cells, intelligence collection, and at times in taking corrective measures in defense of the interests of the Eritrean armed struggle for independence. Though all of his original works are written in Amharic, some have been or are in the process of being translated to reach an even wider readership across the world and across generations. Among these, Yeburg Azmata, The Silence of the Creek, into English, Oromifa, and Tigrinya. Yegazetanya Mastawasha, a journalist memoir, into Tigrinya. Ye Nurun Nebi Mahdar, Nurun Nebi File, into Blen, English, Italian, Tigre, and Tigrinya, and his Yet Ravelo Washa, the Tiravalo Cave, into Tigrinya. Tesfaye's passing is a tremendous loss, not only to his family, but also to the thousands of his readers across the world. Tesfaye, an Eritrean by blood, was born and raised in Bishoftu, Oromia, in central Ethiopia. Among the Oromos who have adopted him as an Oromo for being born and raised in Oromia, as well as his insightful portrayal of the Oromo life, history, and culture in his books. Tesfaye is preceded in death by his mother, Mabrat, and his oldest sister, Zodi. He is survived by his wife, Haben Yonas, their 3 young children, Niat, 12, Rai, 10, Hara, 7, as well as his father, Gebreab, and his siblings, Amleset, Yergalam, Futzum, and Nagasi. We would like to express our profound appreciation for his many literary contributions. Let's keep the family in our thoughts and prayers. May his soul rest in eternal peace. May God comfort his family.
Thank you so much, Betty.
I am in Lube.
Yes, I see you coming in, Mr. Lube. I'm glad you are able to join us, and shortly we'll give you the floor to you. And you will introduce yourself. I try to give the audience a brief who you are. According to the Oromo culture, Magasa, Tesfaye was adopted in 2014 to your family. So please go ahead and take the floor, and Teddy, please give him the mic.
Thank you.
Yes.
You can start now, yes.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
If you can make your camera a little bit up, we can see your head. Okay, yeah, a little more. Yes, that is good. Go ahead.
Good
now.
morning, everybody. The Eritreans. I am, according to the Oromo culture, I am the father of Gada Gebreab or Tesfaye Gebreab. First, I came to this country as exiled individual. I take nothing with me when I leave the country, except Oromo culture. That is why I cannot leave it behind. And after I came, we have an organization on which when in the 70s, and I know many Eritrean in Washington, D.C., other friends, many of them friends of Tesfaye. Tesfaye is one of the organizers, Oromo student organization. And anyway, we have good communication with the Eritreans in D.C. Gada came to this country to visit around September. It was around September. He had an idea, and he knew the Oromo people. Then he told us he was born there. He was not the first generation in Oromia, but he is an Oromian. And finally, from discussion, he knew about what adoption means, what belonging, if born to somebody and then belonging to another. It depends. For a person like him, but he is, because he was an adult, he himself, that is our culture, asked, you want to be, he don't want even, if he separate from Oromia, he don't want to be neighborhood, how nice they are, the children I played with them, and the ceremonies, especially the fall dancing with them, with the children there. He loves the children he left behind in Bishoftu and around. And he said, then I said, then there is a system, you know it, that is adoption. He said, huh, that's possible? Yes, that is in my mind. Therefore, how can, I said, you can do the adoption process, the ceremonies, everything. We can do it, it's easy in this country. After that, I informed to our committee, they know that we got one son for during the Recha ceremony. He came dressed like Oromo. He came to us. Everybody saw him. We introduced to everybody, and he gave some speech, and we announced to the people, and the people, after we announced it, we asked our people who came to celebrate Recha. We asked them if anyone among this, there are hundreds of people there, if they have any opposition to take us our son, and 100% of people said yes, no opposition. We have prepared milk and butter, as well as honey, and some chuko. The ceremony started. I became his father. Iftu Kabada, she is here in Washington. She became the mother. The ceremony started. We have we did what we remember back home, what our people are doing. Especially, I was interested before that, and even after I finished high school, I followed this adoption process. And we put some butter on his head, on his chin, in both sides of chin, on his chest, and then if to gave him milk, he take from her hand, and he drink, he sip a little bit. After that, he became our son. He chose one name, that is name, he chose Adama, but the audience chose for him Gada. And finally, he adopted the Gada. He became our real son. That's when it comes to Oromo. If it is back home, if it is back home, Gada will be highly on his burial place. We will highly organize people for the burial ceremony according to our Gada system. So this is the story in short I want to explain right now. We miss the Gada. He is not only our son, he is Oromo's son. He produced a lot of books. What we want more than that? He is. I am listening to the video after he died. I have seen that some people show to us his past history. Most of it related to the Oromo people, and it's only few that type of person became part of Oromo in Oromo history. And Gada is our son. We missed him like his mother and father and his relatives, his country, his birthplace, missed him. We who raised him, we with whom we play, we grew, we socialized, we missed our son. That's the only thing I can say. Let's God of the heaven, God of the world, put his soul in proper place till we can see each other there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Obol Biru. I hope I have said your name correct, and it's very touching to hear your story, how you adopt Tesfaye. Thank you very much. I think he can hear you from where he is now. The next speaker is Gideon Abai, but before Gideon Abai take the podium and read out statements, one or two, I would like to play one video file from Tesfaye's words.
Shabia Asmara Mr. መጀመሪያ ዝገበሩ ሰነድ ምእካብ ነይሩ አለ ዝተባሃለ ኣብ ኤርትራ ኣብ ካልእም ከይዶም ማምጽኦም ይኮኑ ከም ዝረ ኣኹወስ ና ኤርትራ ጥራይ ይኮነን ኣብኡ ዘሎ ኣብኡ ኣኪቦሞ ካማይ ካብ ሃዊ ከም ዝህለው ገይሮም ግን ሰባ ያራውን ሰባት መዲቦም ሕጂ አማርኛ ዝክእል እንዳጠፈ ምስከደ ከሰልጥኑ ጀሚሮም እቲ ወረቀት እንታይ ከም ዝብል ክፈልጥዋ ይካሉን መንስያት አማርኛ ይምሩለው ግደፍ ኣብ ቤት ጽፈቶ ነቲ ሰነዳት ዝፈልይ እንታይ ዩዚ ዝብል ማለት ሕጂ ኣነ ከይደ መሳተትኩ እንዲያ ኑረ ነቢ ስለ ጻፍኩዋ ቀልጢፎም ፈቂዶም ለይ አቦታ አተኹስ ከምዚ ዶሮና ባፍንጫኻ ከያቱ ተሸፊንካ ይካታቱ አቡ ዜሎ ሰነዳት የለውን ዜሎ ሰነድ የለውን ታሪክ ኤርትራ አቡ አሉ ናይ ሻዕቢያ ናይ እንግሊዝ ናይ ቱርክ ናይ ጣልያን ናይ ኃይለ ሥላሴ ናይ ደርግ ዋዚ ጽቡዩ አቡስ ይሰርዎ ሽም እንደሃቡ በጥንቃቄም ዝህዝዎ ሶፍት ኮፒ ገብርዎ ህጅስ በዚህ ዘመን ይጻፍ ይሎም ተስፋ ይገበሩን ነቲ ዝመጽ ወለዶ ብጽቡቅ ጌርና ከነም ሐላልፎ ይሎም ሰርፎ ይom መስለኝ
ኣብ ናይ 30 ታህሳስ 2021 ሕታም ሓዳስ ኤርትራ ዝወፀ ጽሑፍ ዝተወስደ ቁርብ ጥቕስታት ካብ ናይ ሕዳር 2017 መጽሔት መንእሰይ ንሕትመት ማህደር ኑሮኖቢ ኣመልኪታ ዝገበረቶ ጸብጻብን ሕቶን መልስን ፈይ ዝበሎ ጽሑፍ እዩ ኣብዛ ዓለም ምንባር ናይ ኩሉ ዝተወልደ ሰብ ዕጫ እዩ ምንባብ ናይ ዝበዛሕና ምዝንታው ናይ ዝወሓድና ምጽሓፍ ግን ናይ ቁንጣሮ ሕሩያት ሰባት ውህበት እዩ ኣብ ዓውዲ ስነ ጥበብ ብዙሓት ዝዋስኡ እኳ እንተኾነ ብጥዋፍ ክምሰሉ ዝኽእሉ ዘገርም ጥበብ ዝተዓደሎም ሰባት ካብ ሚልዮናት ኣዝዮም ውሑዳት በጻብዕ ዝቁጸሩ እዮም ገና ዕድመ ከይጸገበ ዝያዳ ከፍሪ ኩሉ እናሃረፎ ሃንደበት ዝተፈልየና ህቡብ ደራሲ ተስፋይ ገብረአብ ሓደ ካብ ጥዋፋት ስነ ጽሑፍ እዩ ነይሩ ተስፋይ ኣብ ሓደ ኣጋጣሚ ከምዚ ኢሉ ነይሩ ኩሉ ሰብ ዝምነዮ ነገር ዕድመን ጥዕናን ክወሃቦ እዩ ኣነ ሕጂ 50 ዓመት መሊእ ኣለኹ ክሳብ 60 ዓመት ዝረግጽ ኣብ ውሽጢ 10 ዓመት ክንደይ መጽሓፍቲ ክጽሒፈ ኢለ ክሓስብ ከለኹ እቲ ዘለና ሓሳብን እቲ ዕድመን ኣይመጣጠኒ እንተኾነ ተስፋይ ካልሲ ይትረፍ እታ ዝጠቐሳ 60 ውን ከይበጽሓን ገና ኣብ 53 ዕድሜ ተቆጽዩ ከይሰሳዕና ከምቲ ዝበሎ ክሳብ 60 ዕድመ እንተ ዝህቦ ነይሩ ክንደይ መጽሓፍቲ ኾን መፍረየ ኣብ 1968 ካብ ኣቶ ገብረአብ ሃብተጽዮንን ወይዘሮ መብራት ወልደ ማርያምን ኣብ ቡሽፍቲ ኦሮሚያ ዝተወልደ ተስፋይ ወለዱ ካብ ገዛ ሕድሩ ከባቢ ዓዲ ብሮተን እዞባ ዓረዛ ናብ ኢትዮጵያ ዝተሰዱ ሓረስቶት እዮም ነይሮም በዚ ምኽንያት ኣብ መንጎ ህዝቢ ኦሮሞ ብቋንቋን ባህልን ኦሮሞ እዩ ዓቢብ ኣምሓርኛ ድማ ኣብ ቤት ትምህርቲ መጻሕፍትን ዝመለኸ ቋንቋ ኣብ ደብረ ዘይቲ ቤት ትምህርቲ ሕብረት መባእታን ማእኸላይ ደረጃ ትምህርቲ ቀሲሙ ካልኣይ ደረጃ ትምህርቲ ከዓ ኣብ ቤት ትምህርቲ ሓፈሻዊ ካልኣይ ደረጃ ደብረ ዘይቲ ወዲኡ ሓደ ካብ ምሩእያት ደረስቲ ኣምሓርኛ ምዃኑ ዝተመስከረሉ ተስፋይ ገብረአብ ገና ተማሃራይ ማእኸላይ ደረጃ ከሎ እዩ ልዑል ፍቕሪ ንባብን ስነ ጽሑፍን ኣሕዲሩ ክሳብ ካልኣይ ደረጃ ትምህርቲ ዝውድእ ከዓ ብዙሕ መጽሓፍቲ ብምንባብ ጥበብን ጽባቐን ስነ ጽሑፍ ብዕምቆት ክስወጦ ዝኸኣለ በሊሕ ሰብ ነይሩ ናብ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ከኣቱ ዕድል ዘይረኸበ ተስፋይ ካልኣይ ደረጃ ትምህርቲ ድሕሪ ምውድኡ ብተበግስኡ ሞያዊ ውቕዓቱ ዘዕቢ ሓያሎ ናይ ስነ ጽሑፍ ስልጠናታት እናተኸታተለ ምሩፅ ስነ ጽሑፋዊ ስራሓት በአምሓርኛን እንግሊዝኛን እናንበበ ንተውህብኡ ዝያዳ ፍልጠት ቅድታትን ክድልበሉ ዝኸኣለ ክኢላ ስለ ጥበበኛ እዩ ምንባብን ብምስማዕን ነቲ ዘንበብካዮን ሰማዕካዮን ብዕምቆት ብምስትምቓርን ምምርማርን ክሳብ ክንደይ ፍልጠት ምቕሳብ ከም ዝከኣል ኣነ ህያው ምስክሬ ይብል ተስፋይ ኣንባባይ ጥራይ ዘይኮነ ንፉዕ ሰማዓይን ፈታው ታሪኽን ነይሩ ሃዳኒ ዛንታታት ብሂላትን ኣፈ ታሪኽን ምዃኑ እውን ፍርያቱ ይምስክር ተዋዛይ ባህሪያቱ ከዓ ካብ ኩሉ ጽሑፋቱ የንጸባርቅ ያልተመለሰው ባቡር ከምኡን የቢሽፍቱ ቆሪጦች ዘርእስተን ቀዳሞት መጽሐፍቱ ሰንበብቲ ዝተላለየ ተስፋይ ጋዜጠኛን ምዃን ብዝነበሮ ባህጊ ቀቅድሚ ውድቀት ስርዓት ደርጊ ኣብ ሚኒስትሪ ዜና ኢትዮጵያ ማስታወቂያ ሚኒስተር ዝበሃል ስራሕ ቁፅር ፈቲኑ ነይሩ እንተኾነ ንእሽቶን ጀማርን ብምንባሩ ቁልሕ ዝብሎ ይረኸበን ተስፋይ ግን ካብ ድሌቱ ኣይበኾረን ነቲ ሞያ ክብል ወተሃደር ቁፅር ወሲኑ በዚ ድማ ናይ ሚኒስትሪ ምክልኻል ኢትዮጵያ ሪፖርተር ኮይኑ ኣብ ግጥማት ከባቢ ደብረ ታቦር 1990 ተሳቲፉ ሰራዊት ደርጊ ኣብ ዝተደፍኣሉ ሓደ ግጥም ከዓ ካብ ሰራዊት ተሪፉ ምስተጋደልቲ ህወሓት ተጸምቢሩ ክሳብ ውድቀት ደርጊ ተጋዲሉ ተስፋይ ድሕሪ ውድቀት ስርዓት ደርጊ ኣብ 1991 በቲ ዝነበሮ ልዑል ናይ ስነ ጽሑፍ ክእለት ኣብ ሚኒስትሪ ኢትዮጵያ ሓላፊ ፕረስ ኮይኑ ተመዲቡ ንክልተ ዓመት ኣገልጊሉ ብድሕሪኡን እፎይታ ናይ ዝተባሃለ መጽሔት ጋዜጣን ዋና ሰናድ ኮይኑ ሰሪሑ ጎኒ ናይ ጋዜጠኛ ስርሑ በተበግሶ መጽሔት እፎይታ ተራሮችን ያንቀጠቀጠ ትውልድ ኣኽራናት ዘንቀጥቀጠ ወለዶ ዘርእስተን ተኸታተልቲ ቅጽታት ኣሰናዲ ነይሩ ተስፋይ ድንቂ ተውህብኡ ኣብ ስነ ጽሑፍ ዘንጸባረቀላ ተፈላጥነቱ ዘዕረገላ ካብ አንበብቲ ሓያል ግብረ መልሲ ዝረኸበላ የቡርቃ ዝምታ ዘርእስታ ንወፅዓን ቃልስን ህዝቢ ኦሮሞ እተንጸባርቕ ስርሑ እያ በዛ መጽሓፍ እዚኣ ኣብ ሕብረተሰብ ኦሮሞ ልዑል ናዕዳ ኣትሪፉ ከምቲ ፍሉጥ ኤርትራዊ ተመራማሪ ፕሮፌሰር ኣስመሮም ለገሰ ንሕብረተሰብ ኦሮሞ ብዝገበሮ ኣበርክቶ መሰረት ባህሊ ሞጋሳ ካብ ዓበይቲ ብሄረሰብ ኦሮሞ ገዳ ዝብል ናይ ክብር ማዓርግን ባርኾትን ክቅበል በቂዑ ተባዕ ደራሲ ተስፋይ ገብረአብ የቡርቃ ዝምታ ድሕሪ መጽሓፉ ናዕዳ ጥራይ ኣይኮነን ረኺቡ ታሪኻዊ ሓቅታት ከይሓብአ ብምትራኹ ብዙሓት ዝተቃወምዎ ነይሮም እዮም ተስፋይ ነዚ ከም ዝበለ ሓቂ ንምዕባጥ ዝግበር ምዕልባጥ ከገልጽ ከሎ ሓቂ መጽሓፍ ኣብ ጸገም ክሸመካ ይኽእል ግና ክኸውን ዘለዎ ብሰንኪ ጽሑፋተይ ብዙሕ ጸገማት ኣጋጢምኒ እዩ ረድየ ዝኣተኽዎ ስለ ዝኾነ ግና ንድሕሪት ዝብለሉ ምኽንያት የብለይን ኣብዛ ሓንሳእ ምስ ከድና ዘይንምለሰላ ዓለም መንፈስካን ውሽጥኻን ዝመርሓካ ነገር ጌርካ ክትሓልፍ ዝያዳ ዕግበት ዘለዎ ኮይኑ ይስማዓኒ ኣብ ርእሲኡ እዚ ነካይዳ ወያነ ዝቃወም መርገጽ ስለ ዝነበሮ ካብታ ዝዓበየላ ሃገር ኦሮሚያ ናብ ስደት ከምርሕ ተገዲዱ የቡርቃ ዝምታ ብምጽሓፉ ዘጋጠሞ ተጻብኦ ኣይተሰናበደን ናብ ስደት ድሕሪ ምምርሑ ኣብ ፖለቲካን ታሪኽን ዘድሃበ ስነ ጽሑፋዊ ስራሕ ዝያዳ ክደፍኣሉ መሪጹ ናብራ ስደት መስሪቱ ህይወቱ ክመርሕ መዕለብ ቦታ ክረክብ ኣብ ዝተፈላለየ ሃገራት ኮለል እናበለ ከሎ የጋዜጠኛው ማስታወሻ የደራሲው ማስታወሻ የስደተኛው ማስታወሻ ዝበሃላ ሰለስተ መዘክራት ጽሒፉ ዘን ሰለስተ መዘክራት ንዓሌታውን ከፋፋልን ኣናቋትን ፖለቲካ ብልሽውና ሙስሊምነት ክሕደት እከይት ግብርታትን ጃንዳ ወያነ ዘቃልዓ ህዝቢ ኢትዮጵያ እንታይነት ወያነ ብልክዕ ክፈልጥ ዝሓገዛ ኣብ ምውዳቕ ናይቲ ስርዓት ኣበርክቶ ዝገበራ መጽሓፍቲ እየን ክበሃል ይከኣል ከምኡውን የጀሚላ እናት ኣደ ጀሚላ ዘርእስታ ህብብቲ መጽሓፍ ኣፍሪዩ መጽሓፍ የጀሚላ እናት እኩብ ሓፀርታ ትረኻታት ዝሓዘት መጽሓፍ እያ ኣብ ውሽጣ የጀሚላ እናት ዝብል ሓደ ታሪኽ ኣሎ ኣዲኡ ንሃፀይ ሃይለ ስላሴ የሽመቤት ብዝብል ስም ጥራሕ እያ ትፍለጥ ነይራ ሓቀኛ ስማ ጀሚላ ዓሊ ገምጮ ምዃኑ እያ ትነግር ትቐንዲ ጉዳይ ስርዓት ወላ ንንጉስ ከይተረፈ ጸቕጢ ይገብር ከም ዝነበረ ንምዝኽኻር እዩ ድሕሪ ብዙሕ ኮለል ተስፋይ ኣብ መጨረሽታ ኣብ መበቆል ሃገሩ ኤርትራ ክነብር ብምውሳን ኣብ ኣስመራ ምስ በዓልቲ ቤቱ ወይዘሮ ሓበን ዮናስ ኣብ 2009 ቃል ኪዳን ኣሲሩ ሓዳር መስሪቱ ኣቦ ሰለስተ ውሉዳት እዩ ናብ ኤርትራ ምስ መፀ ስነ ጽሑፋዊ ስርሑ ናብ ታሪኽ ኤርትራ ኣድሂቡ ክሰርሕ ጀሚሩ በዚ ከዓ ታሪኽን መኸተን ህዝቢ ኤርትራ ኣብ ግዜ ጣልያን ክሳብ ነፃነት ብወከልቲ ገጸ ባህርያት ትትርኽ ማህደር ኑሮነቢ ዘርእስታ ድንቂ ታሪኻዊት ልብወለድ ጽሒፉ ንመጽሓፍ ማህደር ኑሮነቢ ናብ እንግሊዝኛ ዝተርጎመ ደራስን ተመራማሪ ታሪኽን ዓለም ሰገድ ተስፋይ أمام مرقتا نايتا مصحف كم زخبل نتاريخاو أقداسنت نايتا مصحف أقولحيو ሃይማኖታዊ ባርኾት ዝረኸበ ብድርሳን ሃገራውያንን ኣህጉራውያንን ምሁራን ጽቡቕ ገይሩ እተደረዐ ጽዋያዊ ታሪኽ ኢትዮጵያ ኣብዛ ዓብሎሎ ዞባ ነዚ ዱልዱል ሰረት ዘንጸፈ ጽዋዝ ዝብድህ ሓቀኛ ታሪኽ ክትጽሕፍ ንኤርትራውያን ጸሓፍቲ ታሪኽ ዳርጋ ምስ ማዕበል ምቅላስ ኮይኑ እዩ ዝረአየኒ ግን ኣህዛብ ናይ ገዛእ ርእሶም ዛንታ ክጽሕፉ ሰብኣዊ መሰሎም ኣብ ኣርባዓታት ዕድል ኤርትራውያን أمريكان بريطانيان بزمرحقو معراباو عالم منبر بإرتراويان أيتوسنن حلوف تاريخهم دما أبصواتات إتيبيا ترقم بزلو ومقدي قمت هايتوهبون سلازي دما اتلكع تاريخهم كنقرو يدليهم آنن تسفاين لما هدر نورون بنا بانجليزينيا خن ترقما ازدلنا مخنيات ازيو غازيتنيا سلومن برهب وغنو مهدر نورون بي تاريخ حدا زمن هزبتات زوبانا زانتار بعت ولدتات أبربعت مئة جزءات التزنتو أبوزح مصحف تاريخ السفر جبتات بموهاد تاريخ نمكحال زتدفنا ويكرسع زتمرس حقتات عرقانو بموصع أنبابي ودعو جنزابن أنابا تاريخ كله تخيل أدناقيت مصحفيا تسفاي بزح زنبب دراسي مخانو زمسكر الله ركب زلوهم زي مسلو قلب فصاميتات ناي متأثار لعل عقمون كلوتون مسلي ويك جلانا يمفتار سنة صحفاو بالحن مهازنوتن زوغل حلا حانسا مسجنس الكايا ختقمت زي تخيل مساد مصحفيا يبل تسفاي بعلون بزعباتي أم مهدر نرونب بآتي زلو دهروق عدوا بشنخ نقسنت منالي استفاد سمك قبن كوينات وور كرايمز كتصحف كله أب عدوا بزعبات قف عز وردهم إرتراويان كنقرز تدليل مخنيات تاريخ سلازخونة راحيو دحور أجواب أقطع هاتسي منالي نمقلعوني هاتسي منالي خورار نستساتفو صعدو بخبر حيزو ني إرتراويان بحق أوريت موضوعو دحرت راي زي كونه لبونا مسألوني زحنخ تاريخي أوقع عدوا كالي توسخ تسألي منطبونا له سراويت هاتسي منالي أب عودو نزموت خريستيان أرثوذكسن طاليانن بخريستاناوي أجواب كم زقبور قبر كله كريستيان زي كون فرسنيات أورومو جنا رئيس أمنا أمورا رحري هو مخادو زحنخ تاريخه في السامي عاوت عدوا كرعات أفريقيا أبقان تخونه تسأليم نتبخ نقرالون قبو خوينو يسمعني بل هركود غازيت أنيان دراسن تسفاي قون مصحفت مفرايون أبستفل عليه مصحيتاتن دم بحبريتا ويب سايتات عن قصات يبركت نيري تسفاي دحر مهدر نورو نبي كابتا بأحتمت حدرز تدالوت قفع زر استا سرعتات إثيوبيا بلعل سلاماو حزب إرترا زفصمو بدلات تترخ مصحف أقدس زانتاهت مريصو جانو هينا درج يالتنقرو مرارا تاريخوت زر استا مصحف أحتيمو حزب إثيوبيا أب إرترا زتفصم قفعتات فليتو كابو تمهرت بمقسام أمونغو خلطي حزبتات نقصالو عزم دنا زمسرتلو كنت نمفتار زعلمت مصحفيا بدحرز تسفاي نوي خيصنحه يتيرابولو واشا بعت ترابولو زر استا أب تاريخ بهلن أب تاريخن حبرتسب إرترا تمركزت مصحف صحيفو تسفاي أب حدا مدرخ درساتو نامن زقنع مخانو تحاتيتو نيرو نمن سياد درستي أبنت كوينم كتوابعو زخلو مصحفتي كام مفراي زبلص علامة يلان كبل ما مليسو سلامنتاي بتغرينيا زي تصحف زبل حتو ونقريبلو نيرو تسفاي انت زخل أزي بهم بلني تغرينيا من بابن مزرابن خئليه نمصحف زخون ملكت ግን የብለይን በየናይ ቋንቋ ብዘይገድስ ተቁም ነገር ነንበብቲ ዝምስጥ ስራሕ መፍራዩ ምክንያቱ ክትርጎም ስለዝኽእል ክብል መሊሱ ደራሲን ጋዜጠኛን ተስፋይ ኣብ ህዝብታት ኢትዮጵያን ኤርትራን ሰፊሕ ተነባብነት ዝረኸበ 10 ብሉጻት መጽሓፍቲ ከፍሪ ዝኸኣለ ደራሲ ገለ ካብ መጽሓፍቱ ናብ እንግሊዝኛን ጣልያንን ዝተፈላለዩ ቋንቋታት ኢትዮጵያን ኤርትራን ብሌን ትግርኛን ኦሮሚፋን ዝተተርጎማ ኣለዋ ብርግጽ ድማ ኩሉ መጽሓፍቲ ተስፋይ ናብ ዝተፈላለዩ ቋንቋታት ኤርትራን ካልእን ተተርጉሙ ክንበብ ዘለዎ እዩ ተስፋይ ዝኹሉ ድሕሪ ምፍራይ ኣብ ዝቕጽል ህይወተይ ኣብ ነፍስ ወከፍ ሓደ ዓመት እንተወሃደ ሓንቲ መጽሓፍ ክጽሕፍ ዝብል ኒሕ ሒዙ ክሰርሕ ጸኒሑ በዚ ድማ ቀይ ዘመን ዘርእስታ መጽሓፍ ወዲኡ ንሕትመት ኣዳልይዋ ድሮት ሓቲማ ኣላ ኣብዚ ቀረባ እዋን ክትዝርጋሕ ትጽቢት ኣሎ ቀይ ዘመን ቅጽ ክልተን ኣሚራ ፈዳኢን ዘርእስተን ናይ መወዳእታ ኣርትዖት ዝተረፈን መጽሓፍ ትዳልዩ ናብ ኣንበብቲ ክበጽሓ ቀሪብዎን እንከሎ ድማ እዩ ካብ ትፅቢት ኩሉ ሰብ ወፃኢ ሃንደበት ዓለም ዝቀደመቶ ተስፋይ መጽሓፍ ገላጽን ቀሊልን ቃላት ሓፂር ሙሉእ ሓሳባት ዋሕዚ ዘለዎ ዓንቀጽ ልቢ ዘንጠልጥል ትሕዝቶ ክህልዎ ኣለዎ ኢሉ ዝኣምን ጸሓፋይ ነይሩ ጋዜጠኛ ተስፋኣለም ገረህላሴ ጫረ ብዛዕባ ክእለት ተስፋይ ከም ዝስዕብ ገይሩ ይገልጾ ተስፋይ ኣብ ቀርኒ ኣፍሪቃ ካብ ዝተፈጥሩ ሓያላት ጋዜጠኛታትን ተባዕ ደረስትን ዘስምዮ ስራሕ ዘቅርብ ዘሎ ጸሓፊ ብዙሕ ጸብለል ዘብሎ ብልጫት ረኺበሉ ከም ጋዜጠኛ ዳህሳሲ ፈታሺ ኳዓትን ፈርፋርን ሓቅታት እዩ ነቲ ሓበሬታ ከም ጸሓፊ ብኩሉ ዓይነታት ድርሰት ስእላዊ ገላጺ ተራኺ ኣመዛዛኒ ሞጓቲ ኣእማኒ ከምኡን ብኣሳታፊ ቅዲ ከቅርቦ ኣይሽገርን ንደረቕን ንቁፅን ፍጻሜ ብኣዝዩ ውሕሉል መገዲ ልክዕ ከምቲ ከይተሓየኸ ዝወሓጥ ፍትፍት ቅጫ ጠስሚ ይቕይሮ እዚ ብቃላት ክጻወት ዝኽእል መላኽ ቋንቋ ኣንባቢ ሓያል ዘካሪ ተማራማሪ ኣዋሳብን ኣተኣሳሳርን እዩ እቲ ንባብ ጀሚርካ ብዘይ ምቁራጽ ዝቕጽል ዋሕዚ ኣዛናትኡ ንታሪኽ ጥበብ ኣብ ታሪኽ ጥበብ ከም ዘሎ የንጸባርቕ ብዘይካዚ ከም ወሓለ ተቃናያይ ንግዙፍን ሰፊሕን ሓበሬታ ክጭብጥ ደቂቕን ውሱን መበገዚ ከዝርግሕን ከዕሙቕን ምኽኣሉን ትኻልእ መለለይ ይመስለን ብሓፂሩ ተስፋይ ንጽባቐን ሓቅን ኣብ ጽሑፍ ዝተፈጥረ ሕሩይ ሰብ እዩ ብምባል ምግናን ኣይኮነን ተስፋይ ስነ ጥበባዊ ኣበርክትኡ ጥራይ ዘይኮነ ከም ሰብኣዊ ባህርያቱ እውን ኣዝዩ ተፈታዊ እዩ ምስ ዓብይኹን ንእሽቶ ኣውራ ድማ ምስ ጸሓፍትን ስነ ጥበበኛታትን ለዚቡ ናይ ምዕላልን ሓሳብ ናይ ምልውዋጥን ክእለት ዝነበሮ ሕያዋይን ተዋዛይን ሰብ ነይሩ ሞት ዘይተርፍ ናይ ኩሉ ሰብ ዕጫ እኳ እንተኾነ ናይ ተስፋይ ክንዲ ዝምቕልጣፉ ንኩሉ ኣሰንቢድ እዩ ከምዚ ዝኣምሰለ በሊሕን ክኢላን ስነ ጥበበኛ ብክብሪ ኣብ እነፋንወሉ ህሞት በኣር ስማዓና ሓዘን ርዝነቱ ቀሊል ኣይኮነን ሎምን ተስፋይ ጥራይ ኣይኮናን ቀቢርና ዓሰርተታት መጽሓፍቲ ፀሓይ ከይረኣየ ትሕቲ መሬት ነስፍሮ ስለ ዘለና ንሓዘንና ዝያዳ የኽብዶ ተስፋይ ኣብ ዝሓፂር ጽሑፍ ከም ዝተገልጸ ብልዑል ፍቕሪ ስነ ጽሑፍ ብዘይ ዕርፍ ተወፊዩ ብዙሕ ድሕሪ ምፍራይ ኣብ መበል 53 ዕድሚኡ ብ24 ታሕሳስ 2021 ኣብ ኬንያ ብሕማም ዓሪፉ ብ30 ታሕሳስ 2021 ከዓ ቤተሰቡን ፈተውቱን ማሕበረሰብ ስነ ጥበብን ኣብ ዝተረኽብሉ ኣብ ኣስመራ መኻን መቃብር ሓዝሓዝ ብክብ ዝበለ ስነ ስርዓት ሓመድ ኣዳም ለቢሱ ቤተሰቡ ኣብ ዓዱ ገዛ ሕድሩ ክቅበር ወሲኖም እኳ እንተነበሩ ተስፋይ ግን ናይ መላእ ህዝብን ሃገርን ስለ ዝኾነ ኣብ ኣስመራ ክቅበር ንዝቀረበ ሓሳብ ብምቕባሎም በዚ ኣጋጣሚ ክምስገኑ ይግባእ ዕርፍቲ ናይ ከምዚ ዝኣምሰለ ክኢላ ስነ ጥበበኛ ንሃገርን ህዝብን ከምኡን ንሞያ ስነ ጽሑፍ ዓብ ክሳራ እኳ እንተኾነ ተስፋይ ኣብቲ ዝተዋህቦ ዕምሪ ብሙሉእ ዓቕሙ ተጊሂቡ ምስራሕ ድንቅ ነባርን ፍርያት ዝገደፈ ህርኩስ ስነ ጥበበኛ ብምዃኑ ነቲ ብዙሕ ዝዓመመሉን ዘፍረየሉን ጉዕዞ ህይወቱ ብሓበንን ዓብይ ክብርን ኣድናቆትና እናዘከርና ኢና ነፋንዎ ዘለና ኣብ መወዳእታ ከም ሎባ ተስፋይ ኣራንሽን ባናናን ጥራይ ዘይኮነ መጽሓፍ ሒዝና ምብጻሕ እውን ንልመድ ባህሊ ምንባብን መጽሓፍን ነተባብዕ በዚ ኣጋጣሚ ኩልና ብዕርፍቲ ህቡብ ደራሲ ተስፋይ ዝተሰማዓና መሪር ሓዘን እናገለጽና ነብኡ ኣቦይ ገብረአብ ሃብተጽዮን ንመርዓቱ ሓበን ዮናስ ደቁ ንያት ራኢን ሓራን ንሕዋቱ ኣምለሰት ይርጋዓለም ፍጹምን ነጋስን ንኻልኦት ኩሎም ስድራ ቤቱን ፈተውቱን ጽንዓት ይሃብኩም ጽንዓት ይሃበና ንብል ሰናይ ዕርፍቲ ሓው ተስፋይ
ራይ በረከት ብድሕርዚ በርሀ ክትዕድሞ ኢኻ ቅድሚ ንበርሀ ዕዳምና ግን ሓንቲ ጥቅስ ክነነበብ ኢና ተከታታዮቻችን ከሚቀጥለው ስፒከር በፊት አንድ ጥቅስ እናነባለን ይህም ጥቅስ ከተስፋዬ መጣጥፎችና መጽሐፍ ወይ ደግሞ ፖስት ከተደረጉ ፌስቡክ ላይ የወጣ ነው እንደሚከተለው እኔም በሐሰት በመሰዋት በአማራና በኦሮሞ ፖለቲከኞች መካከል ያለውን የፖለቲካ ሽኩቻ መፍታት ከተቻለ በደስታ አሰዋለሁ አንድ ግልጽ ነገር ልናገር እኔ ለኦሮሞ ህዝብ ታሪኩን ነግሬው አላውቅም የኦሮሞ ህዝብ ነው ታሪኩን ለኔ የነገረኝ ይላል። Thank you, Tesfaye, for giving us these very powerful quotes. Please, Barakat, introduce Barhe.
Yes, thank you, Teddy. Our next speaker is Professor Barhe Habtagergis. Professor Barhe Habtagergis is, above all, a good friend of Tesfaye Gebreab. Professor Barhe and Tesfaye Gebreab have been working together for several years. And also, Professor Barhe is the translator of Yoburqa Zimita, Tesfaye's book, into English. So, with any further ado, Professor Barhe, please briefly, you don't need to introduce yourself to this community because you are part of this community for a while. So go ahead and take the mic from us.
Thank you, Barahat. Sma'al Huda?
Wow.
Okay. It's an honor for me, to be one of the discussants or presenters in this occasion. Not only is Tesfaye an adored, a writer, intellectual, but a good friend, as you mentioned it. And I feel so sad, to see him go at such an early age, because I was also one of those whose expectation out of Tesfaye was unlimited. I was expecting everything from Tesfaye in the coming years, and I knew he could do it. I don't need to go into detail as to the kind of work he did because you all have covered it. So let me go directly into addressing my overview of the book, the Burqa, Silence of the Burqa, and why I got involved in it. And it has, to me, it's not just translating a book. It was living through a memory that I went through and somehow changed my life. Silence of the Burqa. The Burqa is the story of a river in ROC, or RC, region of Ethiopia. And the tradition has it that the Oromo people who live in the area were victims of occupation, of invading groups of people, mainly Amharas, and the warlords, Amhara warlords were expanding in many places in those parts of Ethiopia, and RC, the Burqa area, was one of them. And tradition has it that when the people lost, to the invading force, the river is said to have declared that it was ashamed of the Oromo people, the inhabitants of the area, for being defeated, for giving in, to the invading forces, and that it would go underground. It will not see the sun. It will go underground. The river goes underground and stays there. That's what the tradition says. And the river said that it will come out only when the Oromo people assert their own right and fight the invading force. And so at the time when the story begins, people start saying that there was rumor that the river has started flowing above surface. It has started coming out. It has started showing its face to the sun, to the world. And what that means is, the rise of the Oromo people is in the horizon. And this becomes a driving force. People started actively resisting the central government's force, and they started working or fighting for Oromo rights, for Oromo rights, I would put it that way. And the story starts at this time. Two characters, a boy and a girl, who were brought up in the same family. They are not blood relatives, but they were brought up by the same family, got involved in the political activities during the Derg era. One of them goes into the cadre kind of program, the Mason and the other groups. And the other one goes into the resistance movement. And this is how the story evolves. It's a long story. I don't have to, you all got to read it if you have not read it up to now. But the essence of the story is that when the people start rising and asserting their rights, they have to go through so many difficult moments. And some of those moments are mentioned in the book, ups and downs. And to us Eritreans, it's not difficult to imagine. They started witnessing some of the experience that the Eritrean people had to go through. And this is the whole story. In fact, one of the characters goes into Eritrea and starts operating from there, indicating the relationship between the oppressed people, in that part of the world. To me, the book is not only a story of an uprising, it's the story of the Oromo people, because I am a witness of the Oromo people's, condition. I was an officer in the Ethiopian military. When I finished high school, I was one of the young people who had, good grades to go to the university or university college at that time, but were recruited by the military. The military had a priority to recruit people, so I was recruited into the military academy, went to Harar and studied there in the military academy for 3 years and graduated as an officer. And after graduate, signed in the bodyguard and then sent to Bale to fight. To fight whom? The Oromo people. At that time, that was probably the beginning of the Oromo movement. Wak Ogoto was the leader at that time, and there were other people also in RC and Bale region. But I witnessed one of the sad moments of my life, and that is there was a certain town, a small town called Jarra, north of Guinea in Bale. And in that village, there was a massacre committed by the police special force who came from Gojam. It was not the people against people. It was not even the army. It was the police force, the police special force who were stationed there and who were called in to control the situation. And what I saw was, I couldn't believe my eyes. There were dead people all over, inside the mosque and everywhere, inside house. Houses were bombed, with grenades and all that. And there were probably 30, 40 people dead in a small, town. It's a lot. When we came in at night, we couldn't drive because there were so many dead bodies and wounded on the streets. I saw the imam or the hajj of the mosque right in the mosque grounds, killed, with the imam on the ground, the Quran torn into pieces. And I said, what's going on? And then I talked to my friend after we went back to our place. We reported this, and there were, a lot of action taken by the government at that time. But I asked my friend, who happens to be an Amhara, and asked him, what do you think we're doing in this place? What kind of government are we serving? And he tells me, hey, you're keeping me here because you don't have anybody. I have relatives in Addis Ababa and they can help me get transferred. So you get the hell out of here, get transferred, do something, and then I will join you. And what happened was the next day I left, went to Addis, and as luck would have it, I managed to get help of an Austrian doctor who was in the hospital and got military discharge for medical reasons, unexpectedly. So that incident in Jarra, in Valley of the poor massacred, Oromo people, it helped me change my life. I achieved something that I could never achieve. And this is what the whole story means, to me. To me, it's almost like a rendition of my own story, of my own life in a different way. So I was motivated to translate it and translated it. And I had, some editing work to do. That's why, publication was delayed, but I'm going to have it, published soon. The story of the Oromo people, if it's told in public, is considered to be a taboo, I think. People want to hide it, people want to deny it. But I would like to mention what a prominent Ethiopian scholar, Getachew Haile, Professor Getachew Haile, I think he's the late Getachew Haile now, if I'm not mistaken, and he has been quoted in the book, and he says that I have done my best, to prove to people that I don't deny being an Amhara. What the silence of the burqa tells us is that if it's a true story, then all the people, all the characters in the book that have committed crimes and all the people that have committed good deeds are my people. I belong to them. I own them. They are mine. For the evildoers, I feel ashamed about them and their acts. But for the ones who did good, I'm proud of them. So he says, I own it. It's my story. And that's what everybody should do and say. But the book has ignited a lot of negative reaction on the part of many Amharas who think, Tesfaye is trying to ignite ethnic, conflict in Ethiopia. I don't think that's the case. And I hope when people read it, that's the conclusion they will reach. But one thing I would like to mention in this brief presentation is I knew Tesfaye's family. Now it has been about 3 years since I saw them, but he has 3 children, young children growing up and no wife. And we have, I feel everybody should understand that we can do something to help these people. And Barakat and everybody, I hope you take the initiative, if you have not done it already, to create a trust fund, some kind of an organization that will take care of the interests of the family, to have the books published and that the proceeds go to the family, and at the same time, keep on publishing new books, get them translated into as many languages as possible so that these books can become revenue earners for the family. If that's not enough, then let's organize a fundraiser whereby we'll raise funds to help this family. I think that's the next best thing we could do to Tesfaye. The greatest tribute we could do to Tesfaye is take care of his family. Because I know he doesn't have the means, he didn't have the means to establish that after he passed away. And with this, I finish my report. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Berhe. I will take you back to Teddy, but before that, the next speaker will be Professor Mohammed Hassan from OSA. So just to prepare, Professor Mohammed Hassan, you'll be the next speaker. And Teddy, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. I would like to thanks a lot, Dr. Berhe Abtugirgis. Very enlightening and very, very great to hear your story too. It's very impactful. Then I would like to share one information, that the background picture that I have is not a flashy resort in the Pacifics or something. It is a picture that Professor Gideon sent me. It is a Babogaya Lake near to Bishoftu. So in honor of Tesfaye, I have this background picture today where Tesfaye was. It is Tesfaye's birthplace, near to Tesfaye's birthplace. So in case of you wonder why you have this flashy resort place, it's not. It is Tesfaye's birthplace, Babogaya Lake. I hope one day I will see this place. It looks very beautiful, at least visually. So before we go for Professor Muhammad Ali, I would like to play one video file just to break and give the audience some breathing.
ወያነ አቋም ፌደራሊዝም ክሳብ ምንጻር ዝፍቅድ አንቀጽ አስፊሩሎ እቲ አውንታውን አልታውን ናይ አንቀጽ እዚ እንታይ ነካገምጋ
ወያነ እዚ አንቀጽ ከእትዎ ከለው ንጹር ዓላማ አይነበሮን እንታዩ ዘደሊ እንድህር ጥዕምና ኢትዮጵያ ክንመርሃይና እንድህር ዘይጣዕምና ትግራይ ሪፑብሊክ ክንመስርቲና ዝብል አሞንጎ ነይሮም ካልእ ድማ መቃቂልካ ንምግዛእ በብብሄር ጌርካ ክትመቃቀሉ ኣለካ ህዝቢ ስለዚህ እቲ ዕላማዎም ንጽር አይነበረን ሕጂ ቀረባ ጊዜ አባይ ፀሐዬ ክዛረብ ሰምዕዮ እቲ አንቀጽ 39 ዝኣተወ መሰል ክረጋገጽ እምበር ሃደ ክልል ክንጸል መሰላለው ማለት አይኮነን እንድር ዝፍንጨል ኮይዱስ ሃዊዩ ዝኣተው ንዋዳኢና ይብል ነይሩ ሞ ኣብ ሕጊ ዝኣተው አንቀጽ እንድህር ኣብ ሕጊ ኣትዩ መሰሉ ሃደ ክልል ካህትት ይክእል መሰልካ ክትሓትት ኣይትክእልን ግን እዚ አንቀጽ ድባ ክታተው ኣለዋ እዚ አይርዳካን እንታይ ከም ዝደለው አይርዳካን እዚ ኩሉ ቅልውላው ኣብዚ ሃገር ዘምጽእ ዘሎ ድማ እቲ መርገጺ ስለ ዘይብሎም እንታዮም ዝደልዩ ዞም ሰባት አይፍለጥን ቀዳማይ ነገር ንትግራይ ሓያል ወገናዊ ኮይዶም ይራዩ ነይሮም እጂ ንትግራይም ገዲፎማ ንውልቆም የምሰብ እቲ ዝእክብዎ ሰልዲ ትእምት ይባሃል እጂ እቲ ትእምት ኤፈርት ዝባሃል ሓያሉ ብዙሕ ቢዝነስ ይሰርዩ ግን ህዝቢ ትግራይ ከቆጻጸሩ አይከልን ገሌ ገሌ ዘይረብሁ ፋብሪካታት ኣብ ትግራይ ኮፍ አቢልካ ትግራይ ህዝቢ ተጠቂምካ ክትብል አይትከልን እሞ እዚ ጉጅሌ እዚ ንውልቁ ዝሰርሕ በህዝቢ ትግራይ ስም ዝንግድ ብውልቁ ዝሰርሕ ንትግራይም ዓዲ ኮይና ከም ማሓዳድራይ ዝብል ቪዥን ዘይብሉ መግለጺ ዘይብሉ ስርዓቱ ኢለ ዝገልጹ ዝከል
of this, I drafted this statement on December 28th on behalf of Dr. Ragasa Ebisa, the current president of Oromo Studies Association. And it was supposed to have been read at the memorial in as circumstances did not allow, and I am going to read this. And I must acknowledge my longtime friend Bonnie Holcomb for editing this short piece. It is with great sadness that members of Oromo Studies Association recognize the passing of Tesfaye Gebreab. We extend our profound condolences to his family. He was one of Africa's finest writers. His death is a huge loss for his family, for Africa, and for all those who eagerly read his compelling books and essays. He devoted his life to serving others and seeking justice. Members of the Oromo Studies Association are especially grateful for the way in which his work exposed Oromo suffering under successive Ethiopian regimes. May his soul rest in eternal peace. May God comfort his family members and all those who knew this great human being who was dedicated to use his full energy and enormous talent for reversing the fate of the powerless, the poor, and the downtrodden. We all appreciated that he applied much of his remarkable skill in writing in Amharic language to reveal what was hidden in plain view for many, the way the Oromo population in Ethiopia were dominated in their own country. Tesfaye Gebreab was born to an Eritrean family in Bishoftu in Ethiopia in 1968. He grew up among the Oromo people for whom he developed a deep respect and a love. His extremely popular writing reflects his observation and experience living among the Oromo and the others in the central heartland of Ethiopia. In August 1914, I, as the president of Oromo Studies Association Board of Directors, invited Tesfaye Gebreab to deliver remarks as a featured speaker at Oromo Studies Association Annual Conference in Washington, D.C. And he accepted the invitation, joined us. His inspiring speech at OSA conference was greatly appreciated, broadcasted, and has been seen online by hundreds of thousands of viewers, both Oromo and non-Oromo. Following the OSA conference at the Irrecha Festival in September 2014, as we have already heard, the Oromo community of Washington, D.C. conducted an official Mogasa adoption ceremony for Tesfaye based on Oromo Gada tradition, and we enjoyed listening to the father of Tesfaye, my long friend, Obolibe Buru. It was then that he was given the Oromo name of Gada, by which now Oromo gladly identify him. From that time forward, Oromo knew Gada Gebreab both as a proud Eritrean as well as a person who embraced Oromo nationality as well, who was committed to developing understanding among the nationalities through written literature, which included a sustained focus on the plight and the promise of Oromo society. Gada Gebreab was a former journalist who became a prolific writer of historical novels in Amharic. He is the author of 13, I thought it was 10, but I am delighted to hear what Bethel said, 13 books, truly a gifted writer. Several of them deal with Oromo issues. Over the course of his career, unfortunately, Ethiopians, mostly the Amhara elites, who preferred to erase the Oromo from Ethiopian history, expressed extreme dissatisfaction and on occasion even profound hatred for Tesfaye Gebreab, precisely because his writing disclosed many uncomfortable realities about the subjugation of the Oromo. He was never discouraged by those who hated him, because his writing about Oromo, he knew and expressed that he was on the right side of history, while he was confident that those who hated his work were on the wrong side of history. We have already heard the titles of several of his books, one of which was the Burqa Zimmita, and I am truly delighted my friend, Professor Barahe, promising that the work will be published soon. And Barahe, I promised I will order 15 copies of that book to send to several universities in Ethiopia, just for the people to understand about it. And I would like to thank you for translating it, my friend. Early 2021, or probably December 2020, I was calling Tesfaye from time to time And he told me that he really completed a massive book on Eritrea. It's about 10,000 page, 1,000 page, and I hope that will really be published, either published. If it is published, I'll be delighted to order a number of copies, because Tesfaye, through our conversation, he said he saw a letter, a number of letters, rather orders actually, from the emperor decimating lowlanders in western Eritrea, either massacring them or driving them into the Sudan. And this was from the head of state. And this is an educational material. People have really to know about this aspect, and I hope it will see the light of the day. Please rest assured that OSA members have been truly honored and touched by Gada Gebreab's generosity of spirit, his excellent analysis, well-honed observation, and the gift he gave to the Oromo people of dedicating his mastery of the written word to prioritize and excavate the multitude of factors that contributed to Oromo oppression in Ethiopia. We also deeply appreciate and acknowledge his bravery in facing the vicious and bigoted attacks on his character by mainly, really, the Amhara elite who disagreed with him about laying bare the nature of the harsh domination of the Oromo. OSA members would like the family and friends of Tesfaye Gebreab, who would proudly refer to as a Gada, to know that he made huge contribution to expanding the fund of knowledge about the Oromo experience and about the internal structures by which repression of entire nationalities took place in Ethiopia, to which he was a witness. Also, our members were truly blessed to have had Gada Gebreab as a featured speaker during OSA annual conference in 2014, and to have his keen intellect and wealth of empathy and skill applied to correcting the record of Oromo circumstances within Ethiopia. It is our hope that his family might be comforted by the integrity he demonstrated throughout the many significant accomplishments he attained in his short life, the fact that he was deeply loved by millions who appreciated him and his work. And finally, I am delighted Professor Barahe really suggested about fundraising for the family, and few of us talked about that. He is gone. What we can do is to help his family, his children. And Barahe, I'll try my best as much as possible, and please continue with that task. Those of us who are alive, this is what is really expected of us. And thank you very much. I am done. As I have another Zoom meeting shortly, I really miss enjoying what is presented here, and especially I would have loved to listen to Professor Muhammad Hassan. My namesake, my name is Muhammad Hassan. Ali is my grandfather's name, which became my surname after I settled in this country. And Professor Muhammad, if I miss your information, I hope you will email me, basically, if you have written it down. Once again, thank you, everyone, especially those of you who organized this event. Thank you. I am done.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Hassan of OSA. Great teaching, great speech, and great statement. Thank you very much. I would like to take up on one more quote as a transition, play bridge, and then invite Baraka to introduce Mr. Debesay. I will pin the quote and read it. በርግጥ ዘመኑ የሰላም ዘመን ይመስላል። የተስፋ ዝናብ የሚዘንብበት ዘመን ሳይሆን አይቀርም። እንዲህ ባለ የፍቅር ዘመን ታሪክ በሰፊውና በዝርዝር ይጻፋል። ታሪክ የመጻፉ ፋይዳ ከበጎ ለመማር ክፉም እንዳይደገም ነው። Very powerful word again from Tesfaye. Thank you. After this bridge, Barakat, you will take on and introduce Debesay. Take on.
Thank you, Teddy. At the transition, Zoom the audio was off, so but it's just a transition. It was a music and some pictures, so you haven't missed anything. Our next speaker is Mr. Tesfaye Gebreab. Mr. Tesfaye Gebreab will briefly introduce himself, but as you all know, Mr. Tesfaye is the fourth generation of Oromo. You all know Oromo Mahadroch and Oromo Files book from Tesfaye Gebreab. He is part of that story. The book is a very deep and encompasses a lot of information on the Eritrean history through these 4 generations of families. So without any further ado, I will give Mr. Tesfaye Gebreab to briefly introduce himself and give us his presentation.
ወፂኢሎ ደበሳይ ይሪኦን የደለኹ ይኣቱ ወፅእ ነይሩ ሞ ቴሌፎን ግበረሉ
Okay, دحين استهنجبرينا مو.
Then until you telephone Tesfaye, we can play one more video file. Wait for him.
ናይ ኢትዮጵያ ስርዓታት እዚ በብስርዓቱ እንዳቀጸለ ይከዱ ኣብ ኃይለ ሥላሴ ስርዓት ክንበጽ ከለና ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ዝገብሮ ግፍእታት ሲስተማቲክ ነይሩ ከም ዘይፍለጥ እንዳገበረ ብዝተፈላለየ ሜላታት ነይሩ ግፍእታት ዝፍጽም ኣብ ኤርትራ ከመጽ ከሎ ግን ብጋህዲ ጀሚርዎ ማለት እቲ ናይ አቦታት ነገስታት ዝነበረ አሰራራሃ በግብሪ በፈጽሞ በተመሳሳሊ ጉዳይ አኔ ሐቂን መዝራብ እታ ግፍኢት ባህል መጽሐፍ ሽድሽተ ሚቲን ሱሳን ፔጅ ዘለዋ መጽሐፍ በትግርኛ ቋንቋ ስጋብ ዘንብብ ኃይለ ሥላሴን ደርግን ኣብ ኤርትራ ዝፈጸመው ግፊ አይፈልጥም ነበር ምሰንበብኩዋ ሰንቢዴ ምክንያቱም አብና ኢትዮጵያውያን መጽሐፍቲ ብዙ ጊዜ ዝዝረብ እንታዩ ንህና ኢትዮጵያ እንታይ በድል ንኤርትራስ እንታይ በድልናያ ኤርትራውያን በድለው ምናምበር ንህና ኤርትራ አይበደልና ያን ኢሎም ይጽፉ ሃደ ካብዚዮም ዘውዴ ረታ ዝባል ሰብ ጻፎ ንህና 40 ዓመት ኢትዮጵያ ከነመህዳደራ ከለና ዝበደልናዮም ነገር የለውን አሎ ዝባል እንደር ኮይኑ ባአሎም ይንገሩና ኢሎም ወሐቆምም እዚያ ግፊ ምሰንበብኩዋ ወመልሲያ ሓሊፎም አለው ሞይቶም አለው ዘውዴ ረታ እቲ ዝቅጽል ዘሎ ወለዶ ግን ክፈልጥ አለው
was now that it is the new Horn of Africa, is in a different situation. He might go and visit also his city where he was born and visit also his friends and so on. That was in my mind. I didn't expect and I didn't hear anything. I was frequently in Asmara. We used to have
To interrupt you,
invite
Professor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We had a technical glitch here and the sound was not going out to YouTube. So I would like you to kindly ask you again to restart, please. Apologize me.
Yes, I see two pictures and okay. My name is Mohammed Hassan. I live in Belgium, and the previous speaker he have mentioned about me. That is I will not like to talk about myself now. It was a very sad situation of my comrade and friend Tesfaye Gebreab. I didn't expect that at this young age he will depart from this world. When I went to Asmara recently, I met some comrades and they told me, your friend's book, Tesfaye Gebreab book, will be launched within 2-3 days. So they gave me the invitation, me and my wife, we went there. I met his son, which was 10 years old, but I met him before when he was 6 years old because I was invited in their home and I saw the children. I met the wife, I knew her. I used to have also coffee in their place and sometimes outside. And I didn't expect that he would depart. And I heard that he was sick and he went for treatment in Nairobi. And I was very sad because it is Nairobi. I was also there when he was in treatment. But I didn't expect that such a young man at this age will be sick to such an extent and I will not see him again. So I participated in when Tesfaye, Alam Sagar Tesfaye, when he published the book in English, we bought several copies, me and my wife, and then we left to Ethiopia. Then suddenly after I came back to Belgium one morning, I opened the Facebook and I heard the bad news that it is Comrade Tesfaye Gebreab, he passed away. To narrate about this man, which I know since 2012, first I bought the book of him, what is called Gazetenya Mastawasha in Belgium, and I read it while I was flying to Asmara, and I was impressed by the style of his writing. And secondly, is that it is a bravery that he says what it is in his mind, and he was not afraid. So it is for a writer who tries to defend himself and what he thinks, and to put it in a paper, it really is a special quality. Not a lot of people would like to meddle in somebody's problem or put their ideas in a paper, knowing that some will accept it and some will disagree with him. So I invited him for lunch. We discussed. He told me that he was born in Oromia, in Bishoftu, and then he asked me whether I speak Orominya. I said, when I was young, I spoke Oromo, but it is now I understand. I can understand about 80% of it. And then he regretted. He said, unfortunate that I didn't learn Oromo. And then we started talking, and I asked him how coming from an Eritrean family and being born in Bishoftu, how did you acquire the quality of Amharic language the way you are writing it? Because he's not only understand Amharic, he makes it so simple and beautiful that it is for the reader is not boring, and if you start, you finish it. The way he narrates the story, the way he uses the words and so on. So I saw it. This man, he have a commitment. He's brave. He says his mind, whether they like it or not. And I appreciated him. And he told me then he's wrote, now he's completing another book, which is called Ya Jamila Nat, and so on and so on. And he can also write a good novel type history. But unfortunately, we missed a journalist, a writer. In fact, I consider him, he is a miner, a man who asks a lot of questions. He digs deep in order to get more information, stories which have been hidden in the past, the agony of a lot of other people which nobody spoke on it. We could see it in the in Jamila Nat, you see it in Yanur Nabi Mahdar and all this. You see, he is a miner and he is not afraid to dig and to write it as the people told him. And I thought that it is when the change came in Ethiopia, we met several times. I visited Asmara and so on. And I asked him, when you are coming to Ethiopia, when you are going to visit your beloved place where you are born, he told me he's thinking about it. But I didn't notice anything of sickness. He was the normal Tesfaye Gebreab. We used to have our beer together, laugh and joke. Of course, I appreciate his Amharic language, sometimes his sentences, the way he puts it, and so on. The man, he have a talent for literature. He have also his own view. If you disagree with him, he doesn't mind. You can disagree to depart, there is no problem, but he can defend his ideas. So finally, last time I met him, he invited me in his family, he invited me lunch, he introduced me to his wife. The wife, I met her earlier, but I saw the 3 kids of him, where he was living and so on. And then he told me that he will continue writing, but he's thinking also to visit Ethiopia. He asked me, he said that he wants also to travel with me in the Somali area, and he wants to make an interview, the population, what was happening there in the past 60 years, and so on. He wanted to contribute something as he did for the others. He's a man of the region. He is not an ethnocentric man. He understands the system, the damages they have brought to the people of Ethiopia in general, and in specific what he wrote on the Oromos. But I didn't expect. I was really shocked when I heard he passed away. I was very saddened in a way that he was in Nairobi at that moment. I was also in Nairobi, and I could have visited him, but I didn't know. I only knew that he was sick in Nairobi is when I was in Asmara in his elaboration of the Nur al-Nabi book in English with the famous historian, Eritrean historian who translated it. But I suggest that it is all of us, we will pass away, but I do agree with Professor Muhammad Hassan in his speech that it is not bad that if all of us will be organized to raise a fund. I don't know whether we call it the Tesfaye Gebreab Foundation or whatever it is, to help the children, because the children, they were young. The one I met in Asmara, he's only 10 years old. Still it comes in my face, and so on, that we can help the young wife of him. He left 3 kids and so on. We have to be in solidarity with him. The best thing we could do is that if we can raise fund, as Dr. Barhe said, and then we make sure that his children's studies will not discontinue, even though in Eritrea education is very free, but we can at least make it life comfortable for them, and it will satisfy us. This also our children, not only his children, and this I propose that you Eritreans, you are very good in organizing such things, and I will be in the front line also with my comrade Garasu. Garasu, he might be speaking from Addis Ababa. He told me when we met in Addis Ababa, he told me, Muhammad, to talk anything negative about Tesfaye Gebreab Oromo peasants will be very angry. He said he's very popular, very famous, and he's loved among the Oromo people. And I think as a historian, as a writer, even those who disagree with him, he also developed the Amharic language to a higher stage. That it is, he developed a new style of writing. So we have to appreciate the quality of this young man. And I only suggest that it is, please, after you finish this, try to make a committee and try, I ask also my comrade Elias Amara and so on to create a committee and raise a fund for coming 2-3 months for his children and his family. I have nothing to say. I met him. It is a person I don't believe until now he was dead. I used to meet him frequently with Elias Amara, and even after that and so on. It is somebody I knew around when I am in Asmara. Always we meet in the evening, we talk, he makes me laugh, he tells stories and so on. So for me, it is a personal rather than from a book. I know the person, I know what he doesn't like, I know what he likes, I know the type of his jokes, what kind of a personality he is, how he likes. He's a family man also. In the weekend, always when I ask him where you disappeared, he said, I took my children and my wife to Filfil. We are going to eat balas there, and I wanted to show them. He is a family man. So I cannot continue talking about him. It will take me hours to narrate about him, but it is this young, brave writer we have lost. But we have to build his legacy and we have to be in solidarity. And that solidarity will bring us together. Let us say that it is, he might have left, but his spirit, his quality will remain with us. And let's continue to be in solidarity and so on. And this will be a solidarity among the peoples of the Horn of Africa. And it will bring also closeness among the peoples of the Horn of Africa. And I wish that you organize a committee, and I would really like to be part of that committee and try to raise a fund, a honorable fund to the family, to the wife, the young wife, and the young children. And thank you very much. I have other engagement now. I have to go. I could have stayed with you people. But unfortunately, I have another meeting, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for the organizers. He deserves it to organize for him. And I thank for his father, who is listening to me from Washington. As the Muslims say, al-baqi fi umrah, Arabic, they say is the remaining of your age. I wish you a good health, and I wish all his family and his brother also. He has spoke very soft, very nice speaker, and I wish you all the organizers a good health, and we will meet. I hope we will not only meet on such a situation, but we should meet also in a broader sense to bring the peoples of the Horn of Africa closer and closer, that it is that the solidarity among the people must be encouraged as fast as possible. The contribution of the Eritrean people, they did in bringing Ethiopia from the hell Wayane have created it, should not be forgotten, and we should they paid price for that. And therefore, please, all the communities, Ethiopians, Eritreans, Oromo, Somalis, even Somalis of Somalia, and everybody have to be unified. We should start a new culture, a new psychology, that we are going to live and die there. And our relationship is much important than other relationships. We have to forge it on the base of comradeship, brotherhood, cooperation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Professor Mohammed Hassan. It's always pleasing to hear you. It's a great honor for us to have you here and briefing us about your experience and your meeting with Tesfaye, his family, his books, his intellectual and everything. Couple of you have been touching upon the topic of having the Tesfaye legacy go forward and also securing the financial stability of the family. One thing that I definitely know is that the Tesfaye is not about handouts and donation thing. He's very, very need to the world. He would like to create values through his books. His intellectual property should be something that can generate some revenue. So we should think about how we can do some kind of traction out of his intellectual properties and do some kind of sustainable way of honoring his legacy. So let's bring this topic outside offline. I would like to read one topic or one quote, on the last thing that the Professor Mohammed Hassan have touched, and Tesfaye has captured it in a very few, as you know, he's very good on picking up things and summarize it. So I will read. Let me pin it for those of you who are in the Zoom room. It summarizes what dear Professor Mohammed Hassan have said about the region. I take it in Amharic, since it's written in Amharic. ዘመናችን በጥብቅ እየጠየቀን ያለው አካባቢያዊ ሰላም ከመከባበርና የጋራ እድገት ለማምጣት በበጎ ሆነ በክፉ የጋራ ታሪካችን ላይ መግባባት ያስፈልጋል። ሙሉ መግባባት ላይ መድረስ ባይቻል እንኳን ቢያንስ የጋራ ግንዛቤ መያዝ ግድ ነው። This is very powerful, and I think this is what the Professor Mohammed have said. Literally, he have quoted it in very short words. After having this bridge, we would like to invite Garasu Tufa, if he's in the room, please prepare. The presenter Garasu Tufa prepare, and Barakat will introduce us to Garasu Tufa. We will play some transition. Barakat, please take.
All right. I don't think Garasu is online. I don't see him online, so we'll skip Garasu. Garasu, if you are here, wave or pick up the mic and start speaking. But also, Mr. Tesfaye Gebreab, he had a battery issue. His battery died and he could not get back online. But if you are here one last time, if you manage to bring your battery up, unmute yourself and start speaking, Tesfaye. Tesfaye, are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you.
Go ahead, the mic is yours. As I have introduced them a little earlier, Mr. Tesfaye is the person who introduced Tesfaye Gebreab to the Nairobi files. So he will tell us himself how everything happens, and please go ahead, Tesfaye.
Tesfaye, ta camera khan tatul'a getskaun mranaka.
Right, Haji?
No, ta camera off ያደላ ድምጽ ጽቡቅ አለው ታ ካሜራ ግን ታሽሙ አይስማዕና አይደላ
ኣይስምዓን ኣሎ
ኣይትረአን ኣላ እታ ቪድዮ
ተረዲኡ ኣሎ
ኦኬ ደሃን ቀጽል እሞ ታሽሙ
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me in this important memorial for Tesfaye Gebreab, whom we lost on the 24th of December last year. Tesfaye and I met in Asmara, but actually we met a long time ago when I started reading his books. And those books have always been the back of my mind for one reason or another. And then when we met in Asmara, I knew exactly the project I had in mind can only be accomplished by Tesfaye Gebreab. And then we met in 1916. And from there on is what is written in the book in the Nuranabi file. The project was it took a very long time. When we started, we had to travel throughout almost a lot of areas in Asmara. And what impressed me most is Tesfaye was always tireless, and he was always dedicated to his work, 100% and over sometimes. And what impressed me is he was pushing me, and we have to complete this project, and we have to do it, and finally we made it. But to undertake this project, we had to make a lot of research. We had to travel to Unkulu, which was an important part of the project, and we had to go to Massawa to inquire if there was any information available from some people who we thought there would be. And then we had to go to Karen. And actually, this project with Tesfaye introduced me to my own region, which I never knew before, to Fana, Hagaz and Fana, because Fana was the starting point of the whole project. And while we made efforts to go there, unfortunately, it was Saturday, a market day, we spoke to some people and we got sufficient information to base our story. And then we moved to Asmara, where we tried also to research. And it took us quite a long time. But the Nurari file was actually one of the important for me, because it was something handed over to me by my parents. And I am 100% satisfied by the project which Tesfaye did. I really do not have much to say at this point, because the previous speakers have stated, especially his brother and the subsequent following speakers, who have eloquently and justifiably spoken about Tesfaye. But what I want to say is that Tesfaye never took a rest. He was always constantly talking about books. He was constantly writing. And even after he finalized Nuranabi file, he was always thinking of different projects about which sometimes we had the opportunity to discuss together while I was in Asmara, up to the end of October 2021. This was the time when he was making a lot of effort to move around while he knew he was in pain, and while he knew why he was preparing to go abroad for medical treatment. For me, Tesfaye is a great loss as a friend, and also he was very close to the family. And when he was in New York, when he came to Washington with me in end of 1916 and 17 to finalize the Amharic version of the Nurari file, he was involved. He He was attached to my family. He was attached to the Gebreab family. And we shall never forget what he has done. What he has done in the Nur Nabi file. And we really appreciate that. I am sometimes speechless because I still have not got over the thoughts that Tesfaye has departed. It's really very difficult because he had so many projects about which we discussed and he was willing to undertake. And his life to be cut short like this is absolutely devastating, and we have lost a very big writer, a great writer. And finally, I would like to say, I will always be there to assist his family. And finally, may his life soul rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tesfaye. We appreciate your efforts. We are getting close to conclude this program. After the conclusion of the speakers, we will briefly talk about the fundraising of Tesfaye Gebreab, what we plan to do, and your suggestions. So without any further ado, I will pass it to Teddy if you have anything. But our next speaker is Elias Amare. Elias, please prepare, and I'll introduce you as if Teddy does not have anything. Teddy?
No, I don't have anything, so you can proceed.
All right. Thanks, Teddy. Elias, it's your turn. Elias is a good friend of Tesfaye. As you know, Elias is a journalist, an activist, a good analyst. He has been working with Tesfaye very closely. Actually, Elias is one of the very few lucky people that have spent a lot of one-on-one with Tesfaye. Some of us were introduced to Tesfaye through Elias, so that's why we're trying to leave the last word for Elias on this lineup of speakers. Please, my friend Elias, go ahead.
Thank you, Berhat, Takhle, everybody in this commemoration event celebrating the life and works of the great writer Tesfaye Gebreab, the late Tesfaye Gebreab. It's very difficult and sad for me to speak about him in the past tense. I remember, for instance, speaking for about 2 hours with Tedros Mahari of Shidda Media, who was one of the organizers. On that night, I think, of December 24, the day he passed away, the day Tesfaye passed away in Nairobi. And we talked about his works, we laughed, and he said Tesfaye is making progress. And I was very much uplifted, and I wanted to call him. I had wanted to call him, but I was concerned that, it would put unnecessary pressure on him. So I delayed on calling him. But then I asked Tedros to give me his brother's number, Negasi, whom you heard from in the opening of this celebratory event. His brother is now in Asmara. So he gave me Negasi's phone number, and I said, well, when I wake up in the morning, I will call him. Then I go to sleep, and I look at my phone, and Tedros had called me several times. And when I didn't answer, he left me a brief message and said, unfortunately, we have lost Tesfaye. I was so shocked and blown away. The shocks still not left me. Regretting not to have called him to cheer him up in his time of need. But such is life. We are now here not to mourn, but to celebrate his life and his legacy. So I thank everybody, the Oromo community, Professor Mohammed Hassan, Obo Lube, for coming and joining us, my good friend, Comrade Mohammed Hassan, really everybody who spoke, his friends. What a great man and a great writer, beautiful human being he was. To me, from the very first time I met him in Asmara, when he came from Holland to permanently settle in Eritrea, I believe it was sometime around 2008 or beginning of 2009. I felt like an older brother, and I wanted to protect him. I was very much concerned how would he adapt living in Eritrea, because he was born and raised in Ethiopia. But Tesfaye quickly adapted to living in Eritrea. Within a year, he got married to a beautiful wife, Haben, established a family, kept writing, and he even knew Eritrea quickly more than me, some aspects of Eritrea. That's the kind of person Tesfaye was. And he wrote about Eritrean life in his books, and he's just an amazing, great writer. What his brother Nagasi said about him, that we lost, a great man and many works that he could have written, as Professor Gideon also read in the eulogy that was read in his funeral in Asmara. Tens of books probably could have been written had he stayed longer with us on this earth. I remember talking to him in 2019, and he promised me, I have decided to write one book every year. I said, well, at this rate, if you keep writing until you're 70, then we expect from you 20 books. And he was a man of his words. He was committed to write one book every year. And he was producing actually one book every year. Sometimes 2 or 3 books every year. In 2019, he wrote in his blog, Yekadame Mastawasha, I will read in Amharic. He had a sense of premonition, a sense of foreboding that his time was limited, perhaps. And this is what he wrote. የ49 ዓመት ሰው ነኝ ከጊዜ ጋር መሽቀዳደም አለብኝ ትናንት በር ከፍቼ ከቤት ስወጣ እርጅና እንደ ታማኝ ውሻ ደጃፌ ላይ ተኝቶ አየሁት እና የሞቀ ሰላምታ ሰጥቼው አለፍኩ. To translate this into English, what he's saying is, I am now 49 years old. I have to race against time. Early morning, as I stepped out from my house, I noticed old age lying at the doorstep like a loyal dog. I greeted him warmly and continued on my way. So he was racing against time, it seems, to continue producing, to continue writing. He had this sense of premonition, perhaps, that his time was limited on this earth. And how I wish, really, I could have given him some of my years, really, so that Eritrean literature, the Horn of Africa literature, could have witnessed great works of literature. I'm sure he would have produced masterpieces, because he was fast moving towards the climax. I mean, he was maturing as a writer, a great writer. But what can we do? We lost him too soon. But in his 53 years of life on this earth. He has produced great works, and doing so, he has achieved what every writer wishes to achieve: immortality. He has joined the pantheon of great writers now, great writers of Ethiopia, perhaps the likes of Ba'alu Girma in Ethiopia, or Tesfaye Gebreab, or Hadis Alamayo. Great writers of the Horn of Africa and even of African literature, I dare say, because once his works are translated, Africa will notice Tesfaye Gebreab as a very great writer. He was a keen observer of life. He was constantly observing and absorbing and taking notes, and before you know it, it will end up in his life. Once in his books, once I joked with him as he was writing Jamila Nat, and you know, in our long conversations in Asmara, I don't want to end up in a chapter Elias Amara Becherafta, because if you notice in Gazetanya Mastawasha, Sidetanya Mastawasha, he has characters like Sabhat Nega Becherafta, or you know, very witty way he would describe, you know, in brief sketches that person. He laughed and he said, "Who knows? He might end up." And I might say in Jamila and Nat, I mean, honored to be included, you know, Elias Amara Agar, Isaias Afurki Agar. There is a chapter there in which he mentions my name, so that was a really very great honor for me. As a writer, he was very sensitive. Like the Russian literary critic Vissarion Belinsky says about writers, the writers are sensitive points who sense the nation's pulse, its inner life, its soul. So in that regard, he was sensitive to the nation's situation, whether it is in Eritrea or Ethiopia. And he always dug deep and came up with gold. That was the kind of writer he was. Also, he spoke about the bitter truth. He was not about, you know, sugarcoating to please the masses. No, that was not his task. In fact, I have the perfect description of Tesfaye as a writer by the great writer Franz Kafka. This is what Franz Kafka says, and I will quote him at length, because that to me is what Tesfaye as a writer was. I quote Kafka now. "I think we ought to read only the kind of books that wound or stab us. If the book we are reading doesn't wake us up with a blow to the head, what are we reading for? So that it will make us happy? Good Lord, we would be happy precisely if we had no books. And the kind of books that make us happy are the kind we could write ourselves if we had to. But we need books that affect us like a disaster, that grieve us deeply, like the death of someone we loved more than ourselves, like being banished into forests far from everyone, like a suicide. A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us. That is my belief." This is what Kafka said about I think the task of great writers. And I believe Kafka was a great writer. And I believe Tesfaye Gebreab was also that kind of a writer. He produced books that provoked us, that made us think, sometimes that disturbed us. Of course, Tesfaye is a controversial writer. If he was not a controversial writer, some wouldn't hate him with passion because he dared to speak the truth, to expose the distortions of history, to speak for the oppressed, for the marginalized, and to seek truth in out of the way places, not those of the power corridors or you know, the powers that be. He didn't write to please the privileged or the powers that be. He wrote for the people, really. He was like a prophet in that regard. He also was, I think, a writer that understood the concept of the new Horn of Africa. He was not preaching hate among people. He wanted to bring people together, to unite people. But he believed that in his writing, the way to unite people is for them to understand each other, their past mistakes, their past conflicts, their past grievances, massacres, even atrocities that were committed. He wanted to bring all this up so that healing could be found. And people could find healing only when they accept, the ugly truths of our past history. That is the only way to move forward, is what he believed. He was hopeful, as we have seen some of his quotes, that a new era of peace was being ushered, and he wanted to be part of this. So he wrote about the situation in Ethiopia. He wrote also about Eritrea. In his brief time in Eritrea, the Nur al-Nabi file, one of his last works, is a great masterpiece, a magnum opus in my opinion. It is comparable to that of Naguib Mahfouz's The Cairo Trilogy, three novels of 3 generations. Through that, the great Egyptian writer Naguib Mahfouz essentially told the modern history of Egypt over the past 100 years. And that is what the Nur al-Nabi file is. It's just one big book. You could have made it into 3 great books of 3 or 4 successive generations of the Nur al-Nabi family. So we are grateful for Tesfaye Gebreab for bringing this project to Tesfaye Gebreab. Grateful also for the translators like Solomon Berhe, I think, who translated it from Amharic into Tigrinya, Suleiman Abe from, into Tigray, of course, the great Eritrean writer, intellectual, Alan Seged Tesfaye, who has just recently translated it into English. And I hope Burka Azimda, we've heard from good mentor, Professor Berhard Gergies, who has translated it into English, and it will be published soon, also into English for the greater audience. So he was loved by many, he was sometimes hated by some, but that's the task of the writer. The writer, like Tesfaye Gebreab, of the caliber of the great writer, does not write to please everybody. There will be some who will hate you with passion, but so be it, is what he said. He took it upon himself, but that was his life's mission. And he left us a great legacy. Tesfaye also was a great intellectual. He was a worker of ideas. He thought constantly. He struggled with ideas. As a writer, he liked to write in simple but powerful sentences that had great punch. That's what he said. He wrote in the Hemingway style, like Ernest Hemingway, but very beautifully, sometimes like poetry. His writing is accessible to the average reader, but also it contains great ideas within. I urge everybody to read his books and to learn greatly from him. We will miss him greatly, but we are honored that he walked among us. We are honored that he was Eritrean, and as our Oromo brother said, honored that he was also adopted through the Mogasa system into Oromo society, from which he got much love, respect. Also, I should make mention also that as a writer, he encouraged other young writers. When he was a writer in Ethiopia through the magazine that he edited called The Fita, many young Ethiopian budding writers were given opportunity to, because he understood that the problem of publishing that young writers faced. So I wish one such writer whose name is Zauda Lampadese, I follow on Facebook. wish you could have joined us because he gave witness to that fact, the opportunity given to him and other young writers through that magazine, literary magazine called Fida. And in Eritrea too, he was constantly because he understood. Hopeful that Shida Media is going to produce and publish more of his books. We have 3 books that he left. I think Ekay Zaman, Volume 1 and Volume 2, and the other Amira Fedaid. And there may be also a 4th book, who knows. Translations of his other untranslated books from Amharic into English and other international languages will also help to keep his legacy. Finally, I joined recommendations from everybody to put a trust fund for him and for his family, for his children. Barakhat perhaps will give us some more explanation about that as we close this celebration event. But a GoFundMe has been established already, and the fundraising is going on. And Shida Media and others also will keep the intellectual property, the copyright of his books, so that revenue gained from the sale of his books will also help his family. So I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to salute and eulogize my younger brother and great friend, the late and great writer Tesfaye Gebreab. May his soul rest in perfect eternal peace, and condolences to all his family and to his friends and his followers and fans everywhere in the Horn of Africa and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elias Amara. It's an honor to have you. And
Mr. Garasu Tufa is on, so if
yes,
you could give him.
yes, I will pick up on him. Thank you, Elias. Thank you. Garasu Tufa has joined us. Garasu Tufa is a political analyst, political activist, journalist, a very close friend of Tesfaye while Tesfaye was living in exile in the Netherlands before he moved back to his origin country, Eritrea. Please, Gerasu, take the mic and brief us about the story of Chaltu Ndehelen, since you are the owner of that story, and it's very, very close to you within your family. So it would be very interesting how this story have evolved to be a part of Derasiu Mastausha. So take the mic, introduce yourself. For many of the community here and followers, you are a very familiar face, but please take some seconds to introduce yourself and go to your topic. Thank you.
Hello, good evening and good morning for people from different time zones. I'm very much honored to be here and to speak about my friend and our brother Tesfaye Gebreab. It was me who told him my name is Gerasu and we live together in Netherlands. I born and brought up in Akaki. So Chaltu is my cousin who was absolutely ordinary person. I mean, even if you go to her family and ask them about her, I mean, no one tells you about her. She's totally an ordinary person, but she was someone who was born in the village outskirts of Addis and came to Addis after her marriage failed, and then she was forced to change her name by the situation at that time, and faced a kind of extreme pressure from both sides. Now I think everybody read about about Altu. So I want to tell you some other story related to that. Let me tell the story in Amharic. መጽሐፉ እንደታተመ የአቃቂ ልጅ የሆነች ከኔ ጋር ያደገች ልጅ መጽሐፉ በጣም አውትክራይ ፈጥሮ ነበር እና ደውላልኝ አንተ ልጅ ኦሮሞንና አማራን እንደ ሁቱና ቱትሲ የሚያጨርስ መጽሐፍ ተጽፏል አሉ አለችኝ። እሷም ሆላንድ ነው የምትኖረው፣ የኔ የሰፈሬ ልጅ ናት። እንደዛ ስትል ስለማን እንደምታወራ ገባኝ እና አይ እንደዛ አይነት መጽሐፍ ይጻፋል ወይ ሲጻፍስ መጽሐፍ ሙሉ ህዝብ ያጨርሳል ወይ አልኳት። እንደዛ ልጅቷ የኔ ታላቅ ናት፣ ፋሽን ምናምን ውስጥ የነበረች ናት። ስለራሷ እንጂ ስለምንም ነገር አታስብም። በጣም ብዙ ሰው ደውሎ እንደነገራት ገብቶኛል እና ላረጋጋት ስሞክር እኔ ለማንም ግድ የለኝም፣ ግን በጣም ብዙ ሰው ደውሎ ተጨንቆ እንደዚህ ጽፎልኛል፣ ደውሎ እየነገሩኝ ነው እንደዚህ የሚያጨርስ ነው አለች። እየነገረችኝ ከዛ መሀል ላይ ይህንን ስቶሪ የነገረው ያቃቂ ልጅ ነው አሉ እርጉም አለች። ከዛ አሁን ሳቄ መጣና ላብራራላት ሞከርኩና አይ ስቶሪው እኮ ብዙም የዚህን ያህል የሚያስፈራ ነገር አይደለም። የነ ለማ የሚባል የኔ ዘመድ አለ፣ የሷ ጎረቤት የነ ለማ ዘመድ ናት ልጅቷ። አንብበሻል ወይ ስቶሪው ስላት እንዴ አንተን እንደ ነገርከው ለኔ አታስብም? ለእናቴ እዚህ ሀገር መጣ ይሄን ሪሳላ ሄድኩ እያለች ትጨነቃለች። እኛንና ኦሮሞን የሚያጨርስ ነገር ትሰራለህ አንተ ምናምን ነገር አለችኝና ላክልኝ እስኪ ልላክልሽና አንብቢ አልኳት። ከዛ አነበበችና ወይ ልጅቷ በጣም ታሳዝናለች አለች። ከዛ ማን ደግሞ የጻፈው ደግሞ የኔ ሰፈር ነው የሚኖረው፣ አንድ ሰፈር ነው ትሬክት አካባቢ የሚኖረው ከተስፋዬ ጋር። ከዛ ፎቶ ላኩላትና ልጁ ያምራል አለች። ከዛ በኋላ አስተዋወቅኳቸው በስልክ። በኋላ ይህንን ስቶሪ ጽፎ ሌላ መጽሐፍ ውስጥ አሳተማለሁ ብሎ ላከላት እና አንዳንድ ጊዜ he is the most misunderstood person። ለዚህ ነው ይህንን ስቶሪ የምነግራችሁና ተስፋዬ if you tell him some very ordinary story he make life out of it. So he's a kind of very totally different person. I told the story about Chaltu to many people and no one noticed that this is this much important. After I told him, he asked me the geography of the area, the name of the area, some part of the family and some story. Then after like 2 or 3 weeks, he made totally a different person out of Chaltu, and it was very much impressive story. It touched upon the life of many people because a lot of Oromos and people from southern part of Ethiopia have been subjected to this kind of experience. So it resonated to many people, and we had a plan even to turn it to some kind of movie, to some kind of songs, and I hope we will work on it. This is, I'm sorry that I'm late to join you, so this is what I can say for now.
Thank you, Geresu. It's very nice that you made it. It's an honor to have you. And it's a wonderful story. It's not like, a fiction. It's a real story. That's your cousin. And I read that paragraph and I was like, wow, what a story. And then there is a real substance behind that story that we are now hearing from the owner of the story. So it's very, very impressive, and we are happy to have you and to share your personal experience of this story. And also I know that you were a very close friend of Tesfaye when you both lived in Netherlands, and you tell me your grief. And I really understand that you felt very, very sad, as we all have felt. Now, before we end this session, I would like to inform our viewer in English and in Tigrinya and in Amharic short. Tesfaye Gebreab's new book, ቀይ ዘመን, will be published about 2 weeks from now. And also the Nur Nabi file English version, which is already published in the US, in Europe will be published the same day as Keizemen. Some chosen readers have been allocated to read the book, and the book has been sent to them. It is Gideon, it is Elias, it is Baraket, and we would like to have some voluntary Ethiopians, if they would like to be part of reviewer. We will send you the book, and we would like to have also Barhe, if you have time, dear Dr. Barhe Habtegiorgis, if you would like to be part of this session or a review team, we can send you the book, and we would like to have the publishing, the announcement ahead of, like, you know, sometimes next week. Will be definitely about 2 weeks. We will have a review from these selected people telling us their view of the book, how they felt it. You know how book review works. I will not go into details, so it is an announcement while I have the chance to tell you. So we will announce officially on all social medias and platforms. We have about 2 weeks. We will have the book launching day of his great work. You will not be disappointed. I mean, it's very state-of-the-art writing and narration skill, and also correcting some distorted story of the region, Keizemen, and then Ruby file in English. Short about what I've talked in English. የቀይዘመን የተስፋዬ አዲሱ መጽሐፍና የኑረነቢ ፋይል የኑረነቢ ማህደር በእንግሊዝኛ ተተርጉሞ የኑረነቢ ፋይል ከሁለት ሳምንት ካሁን ካለንበት ከሁለት ሳምንት በኋላ ላውንች ይደረጋል። ላውንች በሚደረግበት ጊዜ 4 የመረጥናቸው ሰዎች አሉ። መጽሐፉን ልከንላቸዋል። ጌዲዮን አባይ፣ በረከት ተክለ፣ ኤልያስ አማረ፣ ዋን ሞር አንድ ሰው ደግሞ ምናልባት ዶክተር በርሀ ሀብተጊዮርጊስ ከቻለ ወንድሞቻችን ኢትዮጵያውያን እዚህ ከኛ ጋር የተሳተፋችሁ ያላችሁት ምናልባት ጊዜ ካላችሁና ቡክ ሪቪው እናደርጋለን ላውንች ዴቱ ላይ የሚዘርጋበት የሚለቀቅበት ቀን ላይ መተን እንሳተፋለን የምትሉ ከሆነ በደስታ እየተቀበልን መጽሐፉን ልክላችኋለን። ከ5 ሰው በላይ አንቀበልም። ማክሲማም 6 ሰው 2 ኢትዮጵያውያን እናሳትፋለን። መጽሐፉን ልከን በዛ ቀን በፐብሊሽ በምናደርግበት ጊዜ የመጽሐፉን ይዘት፣ የመጽሐፉን ጥልቀት፣ ያጻጻፉን ዘይቤ፣ ያተናተኑን ሁኔታ፣ የተስፋዬን የስነ ልቦና ቅርጽ መጽሐፉን በጻፈበት ጊዜና እንዲሁም የተለያዩ ታሪኮችን የተዛቡ ታሪኮችን የሚያስተካክል መጽሐፍ ስለሆነ እኔ እድሉ ኖሮኝ አንብቤዋለሁ። በጣም የሚገርም አይነት አጻጻፍና ታሪክ ነው ይዞ የሚወጣው መጽሐፍና ከሁለት ሳምንት በኋላ የቡክ ሪቪው እና ቡክ ላውንች ኢቨንት ይኖረናል ማለት ነው። የተስፋዬን ሌጋሲ የሚያስቀጥል አንዱ መንገድ ይሄ ነው። መጽሐፉን በመግዛትና በማንበብ ሌጋሲውን ማስቀጠል ነው የኛ የሚጠበቅብን ማለት ነው። በትግርኛ አጭር ክቡራት አሕዋትን ኣሓትን ናይ ተስፋዬ ሓድሽ ስራሕ ናይ መጨረሻ ስርሑ ጽሒፍዋ ኤዲት ገይሩ ዝኸደ ናይ መጨረሻ እኳ ኣይኮነትን ኣለና ብዙሕ ዝወፅእ ከይወፅእ ኣብ ስራሕ ዘሎ ግን ወዲእዋ ዝኸደት መጽሓፍ ቀይዘመን ትበሃል በአማርኛ እያ። ትርጉም ብትግርኛ ትስራሕ ኣላ። ቀይዘመን ድሕሪ 2 ሰሙን ካብ ዘለናዮ መዓልቲ ክትፍኖ እያ። ኣብቲ መዓልቲ 4 ሰባት መሪፅና ኣለና ቡክ ሪቪው። Dr. Barhe, thumbs up if you would like to. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Barhe መጽሐፍ ክንሰደልካ ኢና ካብቶም 4 ኢትዮጵያውያን ኣሕዋትና ኣብዚ ምሳና ዝሳተፉ እንድሕር ነታ መጽሓፍ ስደዱልና ኣንቢብና ኣብቲ ዝግበር ኢቨንት ክንሳተፍ ኢና ትብሉና እንተለዉ ከዓ ብውሽጢ ንዓይ ኮንታክት ገብሩ ንኽእል እዮም። ድሕሪ 2 ሰሙን ካልእ ሴሽን ክህልወና እዩ። እቲ ሴሽን ከዓ እቲ ንተኣኻኸበሉ ምክንያት ከዓ ነቲ መጽሓፍ ሓድሽ መጽሓፍ ቀይዘመን ላውንቺንግ ዴይ ስለዝኾነ እቶም መጽሓፍ ዝተዋህቦም ሰባት ኣንቢቦም ትንተና ክገብሩልና እዩ ማለት እዩ። ብፅሑፍ ድዩ ብቃል ድዩ ትንተና ክገብሩልና እዩ። ትንተና ዝገብሩልና ኣብቲ ናይ መጽሓፍ ኮንተንት تحستو أتصحفا ناي تسفاي سن البونا كتصحفو كلو كميو تي أتصحفا قدي كمي مثل تعينت زي تمزابل التاريخ كتعراري زفتن مصحافيو زي مصحاف قرب أنفت كنبكم انتن نتوم جزيئكم كتنببو زلكم زي معدا زدليو نجر يكونن زين ببسب أنفتو زتفقو كل شيء عم أزنو زحت كومباسو زتفقو أما تشاشتها نفسون هاجرون even family compromise جبر كونسل زخ أنت خلولو من نتكات فلت من مخان كات فلت نبي كم تخير كم كتفلت ما أزن كات فلت كأنا ببالك كل زنبك ياها أستوعبك تي زخ السبت غسيبو تزبلع تبليو تي ديسكس جبر له ديسكس جبر له زبا أمبر كل تتصحف حق يكون بوزح تجاجي تاريخات تتصحفوه إذا متصحف زيا بوزح تجاجي تاريخات تم عرري متصحفه كاب شحن شمونت ميتن 4 سقع شحن 900 حدن زلو ناي دارجا 150 عمت زمزابل التاريخ ببحثرت تاريخات تم عراري مصحف ስለዝኾነት አናውንስ ገብራለሁ ከቅርም ሙዳና بركت الحوي كعدمو يمو معصو قبرنايو توم ابزوم زلهم ايتوصو ناي حتو ناي ملسن كستايكلونايو قرب غزي خلونايو توم لايف تكتاتلونا ددهر ناي بركت كنعصوينا انيلي بليز بركت take the mic.
Thank you, Teddy. Thank you, everyone. One thing that has been asked is about the legacy of Tesfaye Gebreab, especially the responsibility that is upon us now about his young children. As we all know, Tesfaye's family is a very, very young family. The oldest child is 12 and the youngest is 7. His wife, Haben, was taking care of the children. So Tesfaye was the breadwinner of the family. So if we have to do something, it's upon us. During his hospitalization, Eritreans were very generous, extremely generous. We did not want to make it public, but in private, the hospital bill was over $50,000, and as Nagasi mentioned it, people were able to contribute and cover that amount. After his death, we have started a GoFundMe webpage, and everyone can contribute to that GoFundMe. It's about 13,000, almost 14,000 as we speak. But if we're going to help them meaningfully, I think we should all share it, and we should all try to do something, and we'll continue working on this together. I'm sure all of you in this meeting and all of you who has been helping out and contributing and doing, we're on behalf of the family, I just want to say thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention is any suggestion, any idea you have, you can contact us with any means that you can contact us. The mics will be on now, but before the mics are on, anybody who wants to make a minute or a 30-second, very short, very specific comments, please raise your hand, and Professor Gideon will allow you to speak, and we will allow people to speak. Anybody who wants to, but raise your hand. If you don't know how to raise your hand on the Zoom, you can unmute yourself and say, hey, I have a problem raising my hand, but excuse me. ስለዚህ ብጾት ብዝተኻእለ መጠን ብእንግሊሽ ክንገብሮ ننتي كابزي خبانا كوميونيتي وصائي كابريج كهلو إلنا مبزحتو زي خستاي بإنجليش كنقبرينا فتينا جن اتي صراحة نعنا زمركات نيرتراين مبزحتو درايف كنقبرو ذل الناس اللي زخونا كلها تحبابيرنا نزي تاريخو ذلو قرب ليجاسي ناي تسفاي حبيرنا نهون كتسلو اللابو I think the other لاتنا زي فيديو ريكورد قرنا لنا اب ار اكسبرس اب شدا ميديا and اب هورن اوف افريكا يوتيوب شانلاتون كنزرقو هاينا لذي anybody who has word to say I see قويت بحال رئيس غير له خابزينين دكتور جيدون كوبا go ahead جيدون
كستايكن قبر بركت this session has been going for 2 hours. We will thank you all followers online and do the Zoom offline. Would that be okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
ناي يوتيوب ناي كستاي ودينا هنا لكا تدرس
we'll close it. Yeah, we'll close it. Okay. تكتاتلتنا نايلو معلت مدبنا بزي نعصو اب زوم زلكم او تصنحوا ناي حتون ناي ملسن ناي تسمعكم كل ነገር ከም ዝበረከ ዝበሎ ብውሽጢ ክንቅፅሊና እቶም ኣብ ኦንላይን ተከታተሉና ብጣዕሚ ቀኒልና ድሕሪ ክልተ ሰሙን ይራኸበና. Thank you.